Escambia County Redevelopment Agency, regular meeting January 7, 2021, 9:03 a.m. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate silent or the off setting. Was there proof of publication?
Yes, sir. It was published in the P&J Sunday, January 3rd, 2021.
Do we have any speakers for public forum?
No, sir.
Thank you. Well, let's move right into our technical and public service consent
All right.
agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Our first agenda is the recommendation concerning the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting minutes for November the 5th, 2020, for your review and approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please vote by raising your hand.
Aye.
That's 4 in favor with Commissioner Underhill off the dais. Budget and finance consent agenda.
Okay, the first agenda is the recommendation concerning the residential rehab grant program funding and lien agreements. And there is a A and B, but under the A, we're asking to drop Michael Oster recommendations on that particular line item.
Move with the amendment to A.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. That passes 4 in favor with Commissioner Underhill off the dais.
Okay, and the second recommendation is concerning the cancellation of the residential rehab grant program liens. And these applicants have met their 1 year of compliance. And there's an A and B for your review and approval.
Move the item A and B.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 4 in favor, Commissioner Underhill off the dais. Claire?
All right, the third recommendation is concerning the residential roof program funding and lien agreement. And there's an A and B for your approval.
Move
Chair-
the item A and B.
We have a motion.
Second.
Please vote.
And are there,
That passes 4, I'm sorry.
sorry.
That passes 4 in favor, Commissioner Underhill off the dais.
okay. The next recommendation is concerning the issuance of a fiscal year 2020-2021 purchase order to the Four Cs Landscaping Services, Inc. within and in excess of $25,000. And there's a, just an A for your review and approval.
Any comments, Mr. Chairman, from anybody?
Are they just cutting grass?
I'm sorry.
Is this landscaping just cutting grass?
They provide services to a lot of our beautification projects that we have, our landscape medians, and it's not just mow and go, it's more of pruning trees and beautifications, plants and different things like that, irrigation system that we have in all of our CRAs areas.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Claire, I just see the Warrington one here. Is Barrancas right there by the bridge included in that?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. I've gotten a number of complaints about that before, so I hope that this contractor can focus in on that area because it does get overgrown and
Yes, sir.
so hopefully they can focus on that.
Absolutely, it's there.
All right, thank you.
Claire, didn't at one time through the summer program that West's crew handled this through the CRA on mowing and cutting?
Not the beautification part. They
So-
only handle just the right-of-ways in our CRAs.
So are we not doing that program with West anymore?
Not this, we haven't done it in a couple of years now where we're doing the right-of-ways. But we can take a look at that if you would
Well,
like.
Wes, I'd like for us to start taking a look at that
Okay.
if I'm going to vote for this
Okay,
vendor contractor. That was a way that we were creating jobs. Wes, I'd like to see that implemented back.
okay.
We'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the item with.
Second.
Please vote. 4 in favor, Commissioner Underhill off the dais.
Okay, our last recommendation is concerning the Gulf Power Streetlight retrofit project contract in the Warrenton redevelopment area. And there's a B, and a C for the review and approval.
Is this just for the Warrenton CRA?
Yes, this is in District 2.
What's Claire, what's the current balance in the Warrington CRA? I didn't pull it up before.
Yeah, the balance.
The current what now?
The
balance,
balance.
yeah.
I think it's 900,000.
Yeah, there's over 900,000 in that budget.
All right. Commissioner May, without Commissioner Underhill here, do you have a preference?
No, whatever you want to do, Commissioner.
If there's, I mean,
I mean, if I had a preference, I'd just move that 330 over to Brownsville. I mean, that would be my preference.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
remove the 600 that remains. I mean,
Yeah, take the 600 and put it over there.
Yes, sir.
Inglewood CRA needs some money.
I would just like to propose that if we're going to approve this, that we pay it up front, pay it off. There's 4 years left in the CRA,
And otherwise, there's a 5-year deal, and we'd be, obligated to make payments that are larger in that 5th year. So all things equal, there's 900 grand in there. I'd rather just pay it all off upfront.
Are we saving money by paying it up front, the interest and bills?
I mean, I don't know the answer to that
Over the
question.
course of the 30-year tenure, you would be. Warrenton CRA is due to sunset within the next 4 years.
So my concern would be who pays it and after year 4, if
And that's why I won't be able to support, paying it monthly payments all
Well,
the
the
way through.
$3,000 a month is perpetual. That
Exactly.
Right.
And
And
that-
And we
Yeah.
can handle that. We can handle 3,500 a month, but I just think it makes sense to pay it off. And so, unless there's further discussion on it, I would.
Yeah, because I'm with you, Jeff, that's never gonna roll over and we're gonna pay it out to general fund.
Yeah,
I
so-
mean, we're not gonna let it sunset and have outstanding bills that CRA can't pay for.
Right.
But whatever you wanna do.
Well, I would move the item A and B, and that would be my motion.
A and B1?
A and B1.
Okay, that's second.
And
And
then,
C.
and then I did just want to make sure that you knew that Director McClure and I have talked about this, and we are making sure that it's on for consideration for potentially MSBU, once you have to petition any of the folks in the area. So we are trying to find ways to make sure that we mitigate the cost in that 5th year.
Well, we can also, can't we extend the life of the CRA? The board can, the board can, we can extend whatever we.
Well, at the time, due to the regulations that they have in place, they are not wanting to, like the state, not wanting to extend CRAs for another 5 or 20 years.
But that changes in
I'm not
every
sure about
legislative
that.
session.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
and they may change
Yeah,
again.
I've heard that every legislative session,
Right.
that they're gonna kill them. That depends on who's elected.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Bergosh,
Yeah.
your item included your motion included item C.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, A,
I second
B1,
it.
and C.
I got you, I second it.
But, Madam Administrator, if you can get a municipal service grant taxation for them, that would probably save money in that CRA. Chair would entertain a motion.
I move the item.
Yeah.
You did, we'll vote.
Yeah.
So,
4 in favor. Commissioner O'Neill off the dais. Commissioner Goss, you didn't move to put that other 600,000 into another CRA, did you?
No, sir.
I'm making sure.
You want me to make a motion? Now's the time to do it, right?
Yeah, Claire,
Okay, that concludes my agenda, sir.
thank you. Is there anything for discussion from the dais? If not, we stand adjourned. We turn it over to the chairman. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, a second.
We're not voting with this thing this morning anyway.
No, sir, we're not. That's why. As I'm doing this, I've got the invocation tonight. Commissioner May, do you want to do the pledge?
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to.
Thank you, sir. Are there any item to be added to the agenda, Madam Attorney?
No, sir.
Commissioner Berry?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so is Mrs. Mott here, the Department of Health? Are we going to talk about the vaccine
Yes,
stuff
sir.
this morning?
We've
Okay.
got a number of speakers on that topic this
Okay,
morning
so-
that we'll take up.
All right, so are we just going to do add-ons and then go into the discussion stuff before we go into the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I believe we have yes.
So I've got one formal add-on that's been distributed on the dais. It's related to an action that the board previously took in November. It's the authorization for purchasing two fuel trucks for Public Works. The vendor in the item that we acted on was misidentified. So this simply corrects the name of the vendor, doesn't change anything related to the financing or the expense. And rather than making Public Works wait 2 more weeks to get on the agenda, I would hope the board would be supportive of going ahead and adding it today. There's not any impact to doing so. And candidly, Commissioner Bergosh, I saw an article in the newspaper related to a constituent of yours that had an issue I was unaware of until I saw it in the newspaper. I would hope the board would, and based on our previous discussions, I'm pretty certain the board is willing to take up that discussion and move some assets and without taking your item, proactively say that I'm good with that. And I thought the board gave previous feedback that if we had people that were approved already, we need to figure out, we need to go ahead and move the money and get the awards made. And if that's an action the board needs to take tonight formally, I would hope we could add that to the agenda. as well.
Yes, and Commissioner Berry, thank you so much for bringing that up. We've got to make that right. We cannot tell someone they're funded and then never communicate with them again and leave them hanging and pull the rug out from under them. This constituent of mine has got $14 left in her account. There's a lot of people hurting. And all along, she's been approved, awaiting funding. So, Commissioner Berry, I spoke at length with Janice yesterday. This is an item that is going to be on tonight's agenda. There's an allocation of $708,000. As I said in the paper yesterday, we are going to correct it, and I certainly would appreciate your support tonight.
So that completes that's going to basically complete the approved applications that we have in the pipeline.
Yes, sir.
That completes what's down in the clerk's office right now, correct? And Jeff, I concur, it doesn't have to be a long conversation with me.
Yeah.
People showed up at my house, they've called me, I mean, my cell number's everywhere. We've been bashed in public media about that. Move the money, pay them.
Yes, sir. Okay, so
It's not a lot of discussion for me.
it's about $708,000.
Yes,
right,
sir.
if I'm
When
not
we
correct.
reposted the agenda yesterday, we added you will see under the CARES, there are all the items that we need to discuss related to things that were either handled before December 30th, things that we had planned that did not make the December 30th deadline, and then the new initiatives that would be extending previously discussed CARES items, and then also the 236 applications
Sure.
that are downstairs.
And Commissioner Berry, just to elaborate, since we brought the topic up, and I think going forward, if we're ever put in a position where we're going to be asked to distribute funds again, we have to be very, very careful. We do not want to give people a false sense of expectation. And I think, the way that we had the website and the notification set up, folks rightly, I mean, I've got a screenshot of it. It says funded, awaited, you've been approved, and the amount, 3,000. We have to be very careful. And I think going forward, if we are in a position where we're going to have to do this again going forward, we have to let people know it's contingent upon available funding. And I know that the application said that, but again, when they get a notification that says $3,000, you're approved, that supersedes any kind of knowledge they might have had or any kind of memory they would have of the initial application process. So I'm looking forward to us approving that tonight, making these people whole. And, sadly, I know that we've been very, very careful in the way we've gone through this, and thanks go out to staff for doing that, because there's been, unfortunately, a lot of fraud involved, and now that's manifesting itself in some violence in the community. I've heard about people, stealing people's CARES money. It's just it's a shame that folks do that, but unfortunately, with something like this, that's nearly inevitable. But yeah, I'm glad we're going to do that. Stephen, thank you for your support. Commissioner May, thank you for the support.
And Jeff, let me say, I want to commend staff and Claire. I
Yes.
saw them work to midnight, for months.
Yeah.
And what citizens didn't understand, I mean, it was a COVID response grant. I mean, how were you affected? Did you lose income? And most people who were on Social Security disability, you didn't lose income.
Correct.
And then justified. So it was a lot of effort by that staff and even our summer youth workers. Because had we gone just with a consultant in automation, most of these people would not have gotten help. And as much as we've taken a beating, we initially had less than $3 million in there, and we moved up to $16 million
Exactly.
to help citizens. And so citizens, although they would be upset and it's their money, I mean, there's not any God-given right that it's your money. It's the taxpayers' money. But I want to be very clear to the citizens that are watching. Our staff went beyond the call of duty, and this board did.
Yes, we did.
Because our initial allocation was very small, and it was only $2,000 per resident, and I remember Commissioner Bender said, let's give them a more impactful. So many counties were only given 1,000. We started at 2,000. We're only going to help maybe 1,000 people, and we got up to almost 7,000 people with 3,000.
Yes, sir.
And we're still making it whole. So, and as much as 2 or 3 citizens would want to get upset, I can tell you there are thousands of citizens who are very appreciative of the work that
Absolutely.
the staff did. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I did see Chip's work there. I saw him bring lunch. I saw Wesley, but I saw Claire and her staff stay there, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, in helping people who could not have filled out the paperwork, who did not have the correct documentation, and so they've walked those people through that system over and over. So there's a lot of kudos that go to this board and to the staff for that. And unfortunately, when we fund these next 236 people, we're going to have another 50 people that are going to still be upset that they didn't get it.
Well, and at some point, you have to cut off And these folks followed the rules, they submitted the paperwork, they were approved. and-
Absolutely. I'm in full, I want to give it to them. I mean, listen, the government that's closest to the people is us. I mean,
That's a fact.
they can't complain to Trump that they didn't get their stimulus check, but they can't complain to
Correct.
me if they didn't get their COVID check.
Amen,
And
and
so
they-
I'm
and they do.
responsible to, and they do every day.
They do.
They show up at my house. And I understand in desperation, people are going to go to who they think can help them. And people right now, the state of the economy, the state of people are in desperation. And so they're coming to the people that they think can
So
help.
the good news is, the happy ending is, we are the people that can help today, and we're
We're
going
gonna
to
do
make
it.
it happen. We're going to make
Yeah.
these people whole, we're going to do what's right, we're going to do what we should have done in the first place.
And we
That's gonna
can't
happen.
talk, I mean, we have to figure out from each other what we see in the newspaper. I don't do social media, but so you and I couldn't talk to understand you and I were going through the same thing, and Stephen.
I'm sure Robert's getting
Well,
up
yeah,
there.
yeah, and we have. I mean, we've had tons of people from all districts call our office and talk to us about it, and I think our commitment as a board is there. We just had to have an opportunity to vote on it, and you know, they didn't know what the exact number was because they had checks that were being returned and things like that. So I know, again, hats off to Claire and her team for everything they've done in processing those and trying to keep everything done. But I felt certain that as soon as we could come together, that we would all feel the same about doing that. You know, it's the ones that met the deadline originally with the application and everything else, and were eligible, and so I'm glad that we have some, I think we have some room in the CARES
Absolutely.
funding to do that, and, you know.
And they're gonna put it right back in the economy. As soon as we can get
Right.
it in their hands, they're gonna put it right back in the
Well,
economy.
and, you know, again, I think we initially did like $8 million for that 8 million for them, 8 million for business.
It
and
was
as-
5 and 3, right?
Or, I thought they were about the same, but as the business, you know, as the business grants weren't being utilized, we kept transferring money over, and as other things we found weren't being utilized, we were trying to get money into the hands of the people, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Jeff, thank you for your leadership.
Thank
on
you,
that.
Commissioner Berry. Commissioner May? Anything for,
No, I do want to thank Community Health and Sandra Smiley. I see her there. We had a very, Director Moskowitz and Congressman Gates all reached out, looking at how could we help serve some of the underserved communities. And so we partnered, Eric Gilmore did a great job, Sandra Smiley, and partnering with the strike team from the state. And Commissioner Bender, I'm sorry I missed you, but
yeah, I did stop by and see things were going well there.
they went well. I did have to take a short lunch break, but I was there from early in the morning to late in the evening, and it was very successful. And I was happy to get the data report from Ms. Smiley that the equal distribution by zip codes was probably through all 5 districts at an equal amount, not just District 3, but all those who needed to serve. So we certainly want to thank them for that, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership.
Yeah.
I think one of the busiest weeks of all weeks in testing was at Brownsville, and so to my community health friends and staff, we do appreciate it. And Commissioner Berry, I know that I've talked with Ms. Smiley and Ms. Donaldson about the opportunity in the depressed areas in the north end, and I know that they're reaching out to you to make sure that that happens. And also to all of our staff that have gotten COVID-19 and who've been sick throughout the holidays. Our prayers are with you. I'm actually leaving this morning, going to another funeral of someone who's fallen victim of COVID-19, and so I continue to encourage people to be safe and practice the protocols that the Center for Disease Control has laid out. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
and Commissioner, I want to somewhat make it clear that I know you were associated with that one at Brownsville, but that was not our doing. That was the state contacted a number, and maybe we can get into it with Director Gilmore here in a minute, but the state contacted a number of counties throughout the state. I believe us and Duval County were the only ones that took them up on their offer, and according to the information I have, we were the only ones that actually were able to.
Out of all 67 counties, we're the only ones that did it.
So the fact that 500 people are walking around Sunday evening with a 580 with a vaccine that otherwise that wouldn't have happened, and that wasn't us. That was the state telling us how to distribute it and everything else. We gave them a venue and tried to help them put their plan into place and help our community. So I don't. You know, I know as with a lot of things we'll probably discuss later on, this isn't as much as the Board of County Commissioners as it is the Department of Health, FDEM, a Sacred Heart that are taking the lead in helping our community. And I'll say that we're here to help any way we can to help them, like providing a site like Brownsville for them to bring their strike team in and vaccinate 580 of our citizens.
And I talked to Director Moskowitz on Monday morning at length. Jared and I had a great conversation. And as you said, that it was a pilot program testing at a small amount to see how could they get mass distribution. But I couldn't even sleep watching on television the sites across the country that were in disruption. And for us to be able to unite with all those partners that you've listed, the health department, community health, Sacred Baptist, it's a model. And I think
Right.
that the reason that they're laying it out in 15 other cities this Sunday is because of what happened. Without the logistic help of our staff, Leroy Williams, Claire, the state could not have been successful. And so we give them kudos, but I certainly want to give my local partners and our local staff a lot of kudos for making that happen, as well as a lot of our local pastors and volunteers.
And the whole reason we have this is because of the job they did during Hurricane Sally.
Absolutely.
You took Director Moskowitz to Brownsville. He saw how you were serving that community. He saw who was in the community. And I believe that is why we ended up getting that phone call, because they knew that we could pull something together and who they
And very quickly, from a Monday to a Sunday, 5 days.
Right.
We pulled it together.
Yeah. So, that's my understanding of how it all came together, and I want to make sure that people understand it was, this was all directed by the state, and we didn't want to necessarily look a gift horse in the mouth and say, no, we don't need those 500 vaccines.
But it was so successful. I think that Escambia County should be, in as much as that we get beat up for things that don't get done, this has become a model for the state right
Yep.
here in Northwest Florida. And so I think it's just, kudos to all of our partners. And I do appreciate you stopping by. I mean, I bumped into you Saturday.
Yep.
And you coming was very, very beneficial, and we're very grateful.
Well, it was good to see how, but again, we try not to be the first in a couple things around here, but I'll be the first in getting vaccine out. So, Commissioner Bergosh.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I assume we're kind of rolling Commissioners Forum together with stuff added, or no?
Sorry, we are still adding, yes.
Okay,
Anything-
I have nothing
sorry.
to add to the
Okay.
agenda today.
No, I don't have anything to add then. Okay. So we'll go back to Commissioner's Forum then. Commissioner Bear, do you have anything else, or?
No, I mean, I brought up the majority of what I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. And like I said, I presume after this, we'll kind of go into the vaccine discussion because
Yes, sir, we will.
it's candidly problematic, and we.
Yep. Commissioner May, anything else? Sorry, I did.
No,
Commissioner's
I
Forum,
can,
but-
Mr. Chairman, I do apologize for going into Commissioner's Forum doing that on, so I do apologize.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to welcome everyone back from the holidays, and I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and we're back to work. I just want to thank staff. For the last 4, probably 5 months, I've been kind of banging the drum, trying to get a very important metric added to our dashboard, and we were able to make that happen over the break. So just for citizens who, our dashboard is amazing. It's incredible. We're keeping it up to date every day because in the midst of this pandemic, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that people have the maximum amount of information, good information and good data. That's very critically important. And one of the holes in our dashboard, frankly, that we had discussed as a board was the number of recovered cases. If you just simply list the total cumulative gross number of cases, you're not really illustrating the status of the situation, because those cases include cases from March, April, May, June, the vast majority of which have recovered. And we can argue about what recovery looks like. Some people have lingering symptoms, but anyhow, the staff has researched it. They've put together the data, and if you go to myescambia.com right now and you look at the dashboard, you will now see the recovered figure, because although there's over 24,000 cases, using the crude recovery rate, crude fatality rate that's described in there, we can come up with a number that have recovered locally. So I just think it's important for citizens to know that and to see it, because there's not 24,000 people, walking around with it, according to what we know. And there's a heck of a lot of people that have recovered from it. So I just want to go on record thanking staff, and let's keep putting this out there. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. And Jeff, another thing they added to it was the number of vaccines that have been given.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And so I think, well, of course, there's, it's easier to control when we only have, 2 or 3 entities that are doing it. But what they are asking is they're trying to update the state database on vaccinations nightly. So I think that's part of where we're getting that number, and so I think it's important to see how we're doing as a county in getting the vaccinations out. Yesterday, there was the funeral for Gary Diamond, the former Molino fire chief, who passed away on December 26th. You know, I want to thank Gary for his years of service, not just to our community, but to Navarre. He had actually recently been hired on as a fleet driver, taking fire trucks back and forth and for the fire department. And, you know, it's, of course, a very unfortunate situation, but, you know, he protected his family, and so our thoughts are with his family through this difficult time, and with all those first responders. I also appreciated Governor Ron DeSantis, CFO Jimmy Petronas coming in town yesterday. We were out at the Olive Baptist Church Ascension operated vaccination site where they did over 1,000 vaccinations yesterday. Senator Broxson, Representative Andrade, and Representative Salzman were there as well. And you know, it was the first day of trying to give out over 1,000 vaccinations. Thought it was run very well. They've probably made some improvements today over yesterday. It was the first day that they had done this, the first time they'd put something like this together. So I think they had some takeaways, and I think Justin's still here, and so congratulations to him and his team for putting that together and having a successful event along with Santa Rosa County. And of course, there is not a residency requirement. So there were probably many people in Santa Rosa County that came over to Olive Baptist, and those in Escambia that went to Santa Rosa. Also want to congratulate Ginger Bowden Madden, the new state attorney, Sheriff Chip Simmons, Pam Childers, clerk of the court comptroller, Chris Jones, property appraiser, David Stafford, supervisor of elections, and Scott Lunsford, tax collector, who were all sworn in office on January 5th. And so look forward to working with all of them. And then also some other condolences to Chief Powell and his family, and Donald Knight and his family. Okay. Sam? Yeah, sorry, yes, ma'am, go
Okay, I
ahead.
just had a couple of things. So Rick Byers is here, and he would just like to share a few comments related to the merger with Gulf Power. And then we have the vaccine presentations. And I did want to mention that, so one of the things, the legislative delegation meets next week, and you'll be making comments. And the only things that I had necessarily related to legislative delegation was making sure that we maintain the FDOT, 5-year work program support, any support for funding of transportation of economic development grant programs, the Perdido Bay Estuary. We were hoping to ask for any leftover CARES funds. We can still monitor that, but since the CARES has been extended to December 31st this year, I'm not sure that there'll be some, but we will continue to monitor that. And the other thing that we had been asked to look at was any broadband grants or programs that we could get funding for. And so those are the things that we have. And so if any of you have any other issues that legislatively that you'd like us to make sure that we put on our list, just let me know between now and this evening, and then we'll make sure that we have this for you all.
Yeah, Board, I plan on going to the meeting to represent the board. I think we all realize that it's going to be a tough year in Tallahassee with the budget and to be asking for pet projects. It's probably not the time, but we need to protect what we can, and following some of the asks that we've done before, and just trying to get that FDOT 5-year plan funded. I think we were fortunate that District 3 didn't take the hit that some of these other districts took. But Commissioner Berry?
Yeah, related to the broadband stuff, there was some pretty major activity in December. The FCC awarded nearly $10 billion for a rural broadband build-out. The state of Florida was awarded $191 million for that. Part of it was they identified there were vendors or contractors that were selected for, for each state and county throughout the country. So we have a few vendors that were awarded different census tracts in Escambia County, but there were 578 census tracts in the county that were identified as being the areas that are going to get billed out of that $190 million pool. It's a 10-year, it's a total of a 10-year funded program, but there is some expectation for the vendors that were awarded the different census tracts that they would start to, assess and make progress in those areas within a certain number of years. So I think as we go forward, trying to, maybe trying to partner with some of the funding models and other grants that are going to, I would suspect when you have that kind of money come down the line from the FCC, the state legislature in the state of Florida is going to look at it the same way that we would look at it and try to parlay it and try to capitalize and put some other dollars with it to really have an impact from those dollars. So I just think we want to be very cognizant of this statewide discussion about rural broadband access and increasing that. Obviously, we have a study that's not complete yet, but I think will be relatively soon. That's going to come to the board, the assessment for the entire county, which I don't think is going to be, I think it's going to be pretty eye-opening. Maybe not surprising, but I think it will be pretty eye-opening about the lack of access that a number of our constituents have, and not just District 5. So.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Bergosh?
Commissioner Beder, I typically attend those meetings, but obviously, if you're showing up to represent the board, I just wanted to throw this out there. Maybe we could have a brief discussion about it. I agree with you. This is maybe not the year to ask for big asks. Of course, there are a number of them that I think we all know are very important for Stephen and myself, and really to Lumen. The Beulah interchange, very important. So we will certainly.
That's the 5-year plan, yeah.
Certainly want to keep that on the front burner, but I had it planned on attending just to encourage our delegation to consider looking at reforming FDOT and the way they're doing business. I mean, and I know that's politically, I'm not supposed to say that, but I just got reelected, so I'm going to say it. We've got a project in my district that's an absolute goat rope. I'm going to use that term. 24 months behind schedule, bright sunny days, no one working, no one's responsible, it's not the contractor. I say something, it's not FDOT. I'm a bad guy for saying it. Other states in this union, they put their contractors on performance contracts. And if you finish early, you get paid. You get paid extra. Look, let's do it. But to be 24 months behind schedule and just get change order after change order, excuse after excuse, this is on top of what happened with their project that ended up with barges crashing through bridges, the toll system 2 years ago. Someone has to take the bull by the horns and say, we've got to rein this entity in. It needs new leadership, it needs new structure, and it needs performance-based contracts that actually get done on time. So obviously, I'm willing to go say it, unless you want to represent the board. Does anyone else feel that way? You do, good. Anyone else? Because I'm sick of 24-month delays on projects and lame excuses. That's what I'm sick of. Maybe I'll just go.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome. I didn't remember seeing you there last year, but
Yeah, it's publicly
Yeah.
noted. We can make sure that it's on the list that more than one commissioner may attend.
okay. I mean, if that's something you want the board to vote on, or or if you want to
I just was
address it as a citizen.
Well,
I mean, you probably get moved to the front, but
obviously, when I go and speak at something like that, I would never presume to speak for you guys unless we had a discussion
Right.
first. And I know I take a pretty direct approach. So would you like me to say that?
I mean,
I support you in saying it. I'm sick of the delays. It's going to be county, will it be?
That's two.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I'm not trying to put people on the spot. I'm just tired of people. They have put that project for 9 Mile Road around my neck like an albatross combined with a millstone. And as loud as I say it as often as I can, that's a state project. But people don't care. Again, we were talking about government that's closest to the people. I'm the guy they grab, and I'm the guy they punch. So I'm going to punch back. And there's no reason why the state can't get this situated. There's no reason for a project to be 24 months behind on sunny days with no one working, and I'm sick of it. So yeah, Robert, I'll plan on showing up, and I will identify that I'm speaking as one member of the board.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff, I mean, we do have a TPO meeting next week as well, and, yeah, and there's, you know, the governor hasn't extended the virtual meeting issue, obviously, so we're going to be in person at the Bay Center. We'll be spaced, you know, accordingly, but we'll all be there, and that, I mean, and that's certainly, you know, certainly an appropriate venue to, you know, to air, grievances and concerns.
Now, I want to be careful. Obviously, we got to work with these guys to get these projects done.
Absolutely.
But, you know, look, you can't sugar the pill on some of these things. You know, dozens of barges go crashing through bridges, and it's really turned us upside down, and they want to, you know, put it on it's their project. The buck stops with them. And then my issue on 9 Mile Road, which is affecting you as well, Stephen, by the way. I'm sick of making excuses. Other states put bridges up in half the time that it takes to do a 4-lane paved job. I mean, it's just, and they pay, and I would be willing to pay, and I think the state would be willing to pay to get these jobs done on time instead of dragging them out with change orders and letting contractors run the projects, right? That's got to come to an end. Maybe, you know, we could talk to the delegation. Maybe they'd be willing to listen.
And Jeff, I feel your pain. I know the Buell Exchange, I've heard about that before I was ever elected. I know 9 Mile, we can't develop outline field 8. I mean, if we don't fix 9 Mile, I mean, there's not going to be any growth for your district or for Stevens. But I would encourage, you know, one, to have that discussion, not only with our delegation, but with Jared Williamson, because Jared, I think that Alex and obviously Senator Broxton and Jared are all seasoned. I think there's a lot of energy with Michelle Salzman. I think if you could probably get them one-on-one as well, and I'm not telling you to not do it in that public meeting, but also to at least talk with our delegation. I found it to be most beneficial to get some one-on-ones as well as get into the public forum with them.
Just real quick on the TPO, I know, so you may have gotten that email. I for one, I'm good with the time that we meet right now. I think evenings?
Later. What do they want, 4 o'clock?
Yeah, something late in the evening, yeah.
I'm good either way.
Okay.
Well, so there's going to be a discussion, because, and I mean, it's certainly, I mean, we're all on it, so it's certainly appropriate to talk about here. Went through the agenda with folks Tuesday afternoon. So part of the issue with the governor not extending that order is, I mean, we've got to have a quorum in person, and you know, we had challenges a couple times this past year when Sam was chair, and then when I took over as chair, you know, getting the quorum virtually. So the in-person quorum is an issue. So that's an item on the agenda to discuss, just, you know, the concern about making sure, because we do have real business to do that impacts us, you know, making sure we can maintain a quorum throughout the year. I told them, based on that correspondence that was sent, that I thought that would be an appropriate time to also talk about, because, you know, the quorum is impacted by people's schedules and their availability to meet at that time. So that's an appropriate time to say, does this time continue to be one that's the best for the majority of the folks on the board? Personally, for me, it is. I'm fine with the time, but the fact that it came from the city and it came, you know, from members that are, you know, our partners on the board, it is appropriate to be in the backup and you know, give them an opportunity to advocate for in that setting for what their issue is with it, and see how the majority of the board feels. But I don't see how, based on previous experience, which, you know, each of us have now, how we're going to be more successful maintaining a quorum in the evening. That just doesn't seem more likely. But
And it seems like they've had some issue with even finding locations that can house
accommodate a
them
meeting, yeah,
after
an
5
evening
o'clock.
meeting.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, if, like I said, I want participation from all of our partners, but if those partners are unable to attend, there are multiple members of the city council that aren't on the TPO right now, and maybe they need to, work with members that are able to attend more. I mean,
Yeah, and actually, whatever letter he was referencing was not attached in the email, so I don't know.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see the letter. I was told about it, but when I saw the email, I assumed it was the letter that they had discussed the other day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you candidly, Jeff, we've had an issue on PEDC for a number of years with our partners there. Yeah, and for whatever reason, we've had a difficult time with our city partners just showing up to the PDC, and, that's not the TPO, but it's still a discussion.
Oh, it happens on the TDC as well.
Well, they're kind of.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
They do meet once a month for about an hour, so they don't really like.
Anyway,
I don't
okay.
like a lot of
So-
meetings either.
So now-
Steve,
is
what
it
do you
ahead and
do
ask,
Mr.
you
Byer?
as chair? I mean, what are you supporting? Did you want to move it to the afternoon?
no, I mean, I
Okay.
prefer the meeting as it is, and,
Okay, and Robert, you prefer? Well, that's, Jeff?
I'm fine either way, but I would say this, if there's a legitimate situation that keeps those city council members from being able to attend at 9, I can be flexible to do it at 12 noon for lunch or 3 o'clock. I mean, because what Steven says is true. It's very frustrating sitting at our TPO meetings with members of the public, the Citizens Advisory Committee, contractors. We were trying to get these projects moved forward, and we can't do any business because we don't have a quorum. So I'm willing to, obviously, wherever it lands, I'll be supportive of.
Well,
And-
I'm gonna, I support it. I mean, I think you're coming in 4 o'clock in the afternoon with staff. We got multiple staff. We got to get our TPO, planning council, our staff, city staff. 4 o'clock, you're not getting the most efficiency even out of staff at 4 o'clock. I mean, that's my opinion.
So we can,
And-
whenever we do it, whatever the consensus is, I'll be there.
And they're planning a month
Yeah,
out ahead of
absolutely.
time, so if people can adjust their schedule within a month if they want to attend. If they really want to attend, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, Mr. Byers coming forward and just making a few comments.
Morning, Rick, how you doing?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice, for allowing me some time. Good morning. I'm Rick Byers, Regional Manager, External Affairs, Gulf Power. Thanks for the time. I'd like to just spend 2 or 3 minutes giving you an update of Gulf Power and where we are since our acquisition by NextEra Energy, Florida Power and Light, January 1st, 2019, what we've accomplished and our plans. So October 15th of this year, we received approval by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, for us to merge with Florida Power and Light. That merger was effective January 1st of this year. That merger is simply a legal merger. We will continue to operate this year as Gulf Power Company. This year, in order to complete the merger and the integration into Florida Power and Light, we plan to file a joint rate case with the Florida Public Service Commission this year and go through the process of combining both companies' rates into one set of common rates. If we receive that approval, working through the commission, we would expect that process to become effective January 1st of next year. And at that time, we would become Florida Power and Light, a division of, Gulf Power would be a division of Florida Power and Light. What we'll be called, I'm not quite sure. That's not a big deal. So kind of what we've been doing since we were acquired in generation, our company is a strong believer in cleaning up the environment and emission-free generation. And so last year, we commissioned our first solar energy center in Jackson County, Blue Indigo. This year, we will construct 2 new energy centers, one in Escambia County that's been permitted called Cotton Creek off of Bogia Road, as well as another energy center in Jackson County. We have plans to develop 9 more of these energy centers throughout Northwest Florida. So that's a big push by the company. As of the end of the year, we retired the coal burning units at Plant Chris, so Plant Chris is no longer burning coal, and we have converted Plant Chris to natural gas. Through that process, we constructed a 39-mile long pipeline to provide the natural gas that we need. We converted the last 2 coal burning units to gas, so all the units are burning gas. We're building 4 more CTs that will burn gas as well. So by doing that, we reduced our emissions by 40%, which was the equivalent of taking 297,000 cars off the road. So we've been doing that. We have been increasing our reliability. We have improved our reliability since we were acquired by 43%. Part of that is we're in the process of constructing a 176 long mile transmission line to connect us to Florida Power and Light. That will give us the ability to import power from them as well as export power that we have depending on what's going on our system. Last year and this year, we are investing $200 million in our infrastructure. This includes taking all of the wooden poles out of our system. We will be replacing 4,800 transmission wooden poles with all steel structures. You probably saw, I know I got a call from Commissioner Bender about what was going on at the interstate. We were pulling 3 new transmission lines, so we're in the process of beefing up our transmission system. We're hardening our main lines to extreme wind loading capability, and we're installing smart devices on our system to allow our system to heal itself instead of having to roll a truck. So those are all investments we're making last year and this year, $200 million. Also, we are working to remove excess cost and become more efficient. We have taken 30% of our O&M cost out of our budget since 2019. And then in the process, what's important to us is our customers and our stakeholders. And as I said, we've improved our reliability to them by 43%. We had an unprecedented response, as you know, partnering with our sister company, Florida Power and Light, and 7,000 men and women to restore power in 5 days after Hurricane Sally, and I appreciate the support of the commission. In March, we rolled out a new customer information system to enhance our customers' experience. We've had a few bumps because it's a new system and it hasn't come without challenges. Throughout the pandemic, we have worked very hard to help our customers. We suspended disconnects of service for 9 months, and as you know, with that, there was an article in the paper today, I read about that. People got further behind, and so we have developed robust plans to help our customers with payment extensions, payment arrangements, and we've connected them to agencies that help with financial assistance. Our leadership authorized a $200 bill credit for customers that were seriously past due and to help them get their bills current. We contributed $1 million to the United Way, Project Share, Boys and Girls Clubs, and to small businesses. We continue to make small business grants available through our economic development organization, and we continue to partner with our small businesses to help them be successful. In addition, our foundation gave $1.4 million of our shareholders' dollars out in the community to help our community organizations take care of the needs. We continue to work with all organizations to help them raise fundraisings and to be an integral part, and our employees donate many hours. So that's really all I had to say. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your partnership, and please know that as we move forward, the name may change, but we're going to be a better company and more responsive, and we appreciate your partnership. And if there's anything I can ever do, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Rick, 2 quick questions. When the rate gets combined, are we looking at an increase or decrease? Do we know? Just, sorry to put you on the spot, just, you know.
No,
You don't think they're gonna get reduced, do you?
no, fair. No. The goal is, from day one when the company acquired us, they saw that opportunity. Florida Power and Lights have some of the lowest residential rates in the nation. And that goal was to execute that playbook here at Gulf Power. So that is the company's plan. Day one, will they be as low as Florida Power and Light? I can't say that, but the plan is for the rates to become the same and absolutely for those rates to come down.
And that's what I remembered hearing.
Yes,
So that's
yes,
why
that
I
has not
was
changed.
trying to let you say
No,
that there was
I don't know
the
the
possibility
exact-
that I mean, of course, things change, I mean, Hurricane Sally, things like that. So
Right.
it may be that there's a increase where it's a net wash or something like that, but it looks like there's the possibility that the rates would be decreased.
That is absolutely the plan. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And that's why I just wanted to say.
Yes, sir.
And I think the other thing is for people that are having trouble paying their bill, my guess is it's important to contact you.
Yes.
Don't not contact Gulf Power and try to work something out or talk to them if you're having trouble. As with anything, it's better to have that open line of communication and at least communicate with them to see what's available and what you can work out without not doing anything and then if you guys just come out and end up having to disconnect because you don't know what's going on. So,
Right.
so I just, if you want to address that, just so people are aware that, you know, what your policy is or procedure.
Absolutely. That's the absolute last thing we want to do is disconnect a customer. Matter of fact, with the temperature gets to a certain low temperature, we do not do any disconnects, for the health and welfare of the customer. But if the customer will call the 800 number, the agent can help them. They can offer them a payment arrangement. I mean, eventually you've got to pay the bill. They can direct them to 211 and other assistance where there is monies to help them. And we can also do a payment arrangement where we can stretch out those payments, and as long as the customer's making a payment, we can
Sure.
work with them.
Yeah.
But, right, if they don't contact us and we go through the notification process, then at the end of the day, it could result in a disconnect.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Yes,
perfect.
sir.
Well, appreciate you coming this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Rick, first of
Yes,
all,
sir.
I do want to thank you. I mean, I was, when all of our dear friends were headed up to Atlanta and off to Birmingham, a lot of the nonprofits were highly dependent, some that I'm associated with, and you guys have really stepped up, and you personally have stepped up, so I want to publicly.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for that, and I do want to thank you for your efforts during Hurricane Sally in some of our underserved and depressed areas. We get a lot of credit for setting up at Brownsville and getting FEMA and vaccinations and testing and all those things, but we could not have done that without you getting your crew in to get us power. And you made that a priority, so I certainly want to thank you for that as well. My only question is as we convert, obviously the air quality improves and emissions when we convert from coal to gas. And I guess I heard Commissioner Bender say to you that there'll probably, hopefully, long-term be a reduction in rates for the taxpayers or the citizens. Is that kind of the projection?
Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate any layoffs due to the conversion at all in terms of staff out of the plant?
No. Here's how
And not
that
to put you on the
process
spot, it's
works.
just, obviously,
Right.
we
No.
represent a lot of people there.
That question has
But
been asked.
You're asking about the plant, though. Is that-
Yeah, well, I would ask about the plant, but I probably would ask about overall as well.
Right.
I mean, because you are one of the most significant employers. Not only do you employ a lot of people, you pay well.
Thank you. And so the leadership takes that very seriously. And so for the company, it's about the position and not the individual, right? If we need the position or we don't need the position, or what positions we do need. And so their view is if someone's position is going away, then the first thing they try to do is to put the employee in a different position, even if they have to train the employee, if the employee is open to that. They will help the employee. If the employee decides, I do not want to stay with the company, they will help the employee with other career services. And then finally, at the end of the day, if there is no bridge to retaining the employee, the company has always been very generous with a very adequate severance package. So the company has never had a goal of laying employees off. Now they may repurpose an employee, including myself. As you know, I was repurposed a year ago into this job. I was in a different job, so
Absolutely.
I didn't get laid off. I just got repurposed.
And I love Bentina Terry, but I'm glad that they got a good replacement that believes like she believes.
So I'm an example of a repurpose.
So you would say, and honestly, just because we do get those calls, because people are fearful and sometimes they can't talk to administration in the way that they want to.
Right.
You don't think that there's going to be layoffs, there'll just be repurposing of employees?
I will tell you that since we've been acquired and we've gone through the restructuring and the reorganizing, we have done most of everything we need to do according to our executive leadership. So there would be very few changes at this point that I'm aware of.
And you'll continue, the headquarters will continue to be downtown, I would
Yes.
assume? All right. Well, Rick, thank you for all you're doing.
Yes, sir.
It does not go unnoticed, your efforts, and I think I do owe you a return call after the holidays, and I'll do it.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Madam Administrator, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Rick, for coming and sharing that information and giving them the opportunity to ask these questions so that the public can also be advised. I did want to make sure that Marie Marie Mott is here, so she's going to come up. We also have Eric Gilmore here to talk about vaccinations. And then we have Chandra and Justin, Chandra with Community Health and Justin with Ascension Sacred Heart. And I think that that team can do their best to try and show you the picture of what we know. I've tried to explain the vaccination distribution system in a couple of different instances, but I would say the best way that we can probably describe it is to say it's pop-up vaccination program. So, Marie, if you'll come up.
Well, while she's on her way up,
Eric and Justin and Chandra, y'all probably want to be on deck.
are we going to talk about vaccinations now?
We're talking about everything right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I've just had a ton of emails, phone calls, just about the way we're rolling it out. And hopefully, as part of this discussion, Marie, that we can, give the citizens some clear guidance
Yep, that's the intent. Yep.
on how we do this. And then, well, I'll definitely.
Mr. Chairman, I know that this is probably going to be a lengthy discussion, and probably because just reading what you wrote in the paper, Jeff, I know that there are some concerns. But I do have a funeral of a dear friend that I have a hard quitting time about 11, no later than 11:15. I need to be at the church at 11:30. So however long you want to spend on this, or if there are other items in which you would think you need my input, I would like to get
My focus is trying to have this discussion this morning. We'll have our meeting tonight. If there's anything specific that you want to address on the agenda this morning, we can do that. But the intent is to have a discussion with the Department of Health, Ascension, the Community Health, and Public Safety to be able to inform our citizens of what's going on, how we're changing our procedures, and maybe just clear some of the questions that are out there right now.
I would be very satisfied with just this, because I didn't see anything on the agenda that just points out at me. But I just want to, I don't know what time Jeff has to leave. I know he sometimes has to
Yeah,
leave a little early.
and I'm right behind you at 11 o'clock. So I think if we get through this discussion and whatever we can get into the agenda is fine. But
About
I know
11
that we all do
Is
our.
11 o'clock good with you then?
11 o'clock's great with me.
Okay,
So-
well, 11 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do you mind, as you kind of moderate the discussion with these folks, talking about the vaccines, but I also want to talk to each of the partners. Can you ask them to give some feedback about the list, about how they're handling calls and lists and stuff? Because there's a perception that we have some repository of something, and obviously that doesn't exist. But we need to, ideally, if we could close our discussion today with some idea of how we're going to handle that stuff going forward. I think there's an expectation that if we're going to be involved, which apparently we're going to be involved on some level, that there's an expectation that we have some control over how some of this is handled, so.
Right, and that is the intent. I think somewhat of what you're saying, and I'll let Marie talk in a second, but, we've been planning one avenue for months, right? Following the CDC guidelines on how to roll this vaccine out. And there was an executive order that came out and said, you need to focus on the 65 and over and put all of our plans behind the plan that we're currently putting in place. And so it's, the Department of Health started their program of taking names and doing again, short notice, the best way that they could. I think it's important to know that what Sacred is doing in Santa Rosa and Escambia County is separate from the Department of Health. We're working on trying so where we can maybe work off the list that the Department of Health has, or allocate some portion of the next set of vaccines to those that are on the list. But these are separate organizations that really aren't crossing over. They're both helping our community, and I know Baptist is doing some as well. And so, and yes, it is confusing. Or may not be easy to follow for everyone. And so I think that's the point of this discussion this morning is that, if Sacred Heart has a site that becomes available and you've called and left a survey with the Department of Health, it doesn't stop you from going on the Sacred Heart and going ahead and getting a vaccine. And then whenever the Department of Health calls, you can say, hey, I've already gotten it. So, but with that, we'll go ahead and.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Steve, just to reply back to you, and and this is the only time we can have this conversation, Robert, and I've certainly been yelling and even arguing with my colleague Jeff about, COVID since March, and I probably have been more adversely affected than most, and I just have had a passion for it. But, I mean, I think that Claire does a good job. I think Eric Gilmore is doing an outstanding job. Our PIO is trying to get it. But this vaccine is so serious, it's killing our citizens more than anything else. We are doing a disservice if we don't have a staff person that wakes up every day and their full-time job is addressing whether it's testing, vaccine, coordinating, getting information out, putting the 5 commissioners on the same sheet of music, making sure that all of our partners are partnered together. This is a pandemic, and although staff is doing a great job, they are doing multiple tasks. I hope out of this discussion that there's somebody identified, whether it's one of the deputy assistants or somebody that wakes up every single day. A point person. We have no point person. That's why there's no information. You can go to the administrator, or you go to Gilmore, you go to Claire, you go to Sandra. This is serious enough that somebody, if any other pandemic was killing this many citizens, we'd have somebody calling it a state of an emergency, in which it is. And we have yet to put one person that wakes up every
idea.
morning and says, I'm looking at COVID-19. And so hopefully, for me, we identify that person, and that way Commissioner Bender doesn't have to go to CHIPS, or I don't have to go to Wesley, I don't have to go to Debbie. We don't have to go to Eric. That one person is solely responsible for communications, vaccination, coordinating, and getting information out.
Good idea. Yeah.
I think it's chips already. It's chips.
I call
I think-
Eric, so.
It's Eric.
Well, I think Chips is doing, well, see, Chips is doing it for you, but Chips is doing a little bit here, and Eric's doing a little bit, and then other PIO's doing it. Leroy's doing it. I want to be able to say, Chips, where the heck are they testing today? Have you coordinated with Sacred Heart and Baptist? Have you worked with community health? Have you set up our sites? I mean, that's good. And if Chips is that person, and that's great, but I would hope that, it would be someone that's dedicated to putting 10 hours a day into something that's very serious to our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Berry, do you have anything else right now?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Marie.
All right. So I do have the general kind of update slides in here today that if we need to reference, we can do that. Just a reminder, we're still under a public health emergency and a public health advisory to continue those prevention precautions, limiting social gatherings, wearing face coverings, protecting the vulnerable populations, which we'll be digging into a little bit more with the vaccine information as well. December 23rd of 2020 was the release of the executive order that prioritized persons 65 years of age of older, so adding that to the medical target priorities and the long-term care residents and staff. And that was a shift in the original plan. So originally, generally, the plan was there are a list of priorities. Vaccine would be funneled down through the health departments and coordinated out from there. And we're seeing that shift not only to the change in the priorities, but also to how vaccines being distributed at the local level, with the adding in of hospitals and some other things that we'll get into later. I did add this slide back in. I had taken this out of my presentation a few presentations back, just because it's been consistent in terms of the percentages of populations that are impacted, but just to kind of look at that racial ethnic breakdown for cases and hospitalizations and deaths, you can see how those are kind of worked out. We do have a large percentage of unknown, which is probably why maybe some of these are not typical racially breakdown compared to other states or other counties. But these percentages have been consistent week over week. So again, just an update on cases today. The last time I was here, we were not seeing these kind of returns. They've definitely increased, along with the percent positivity, which is concerning. So typically we are targeting below 10% as where we'd want to see our percent positivities, and we're definitely not in that target range right now. Another thing just to note is the percent positivity for the under 18, which typically before, or in the previous presentations that I've given has been about 10.5%. Today is 12.5%.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
And
sir.
I apologize. Marie, do you mind going back to the slide before? And this is something that I've asked previously, you know, with the higher rates it's probably an anecdotal answer, not a statistical answer, but are we seeing more symptomatic people be tested, or are we still primarily seeing asymptomatic people being tested?
I don't know if there's been a significant shift in that, because it has been a fair mix. But probably, you know, again, anecdotally, maybe more symptomatic.
Yeah.
But there has been a lot more testing, so without having to go to each testing site and try to capture that, as you know, who's coming into their sites, I wouldn't be able to tell you right off the bat.
Do you feel like there's an overall refocus of the severity of the issue back to, I mean, I realize you weren't the director when this started in March with us, but you were certainly a principal at the agency at the time, even if you weren't, even if you were, you know, with Dr. Lanza. Do you see kind of a re-recognition of the severity of what's going on?
I mean,
Was it more lax for a period of time and now it's kind of refocused on the severity?
I mean, I'm really not sure I can answer that. In terms of what's going on in people's minds and how they perceive things, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm sure your agency is treating it the same as it has for 9 months. That's not my question, but, you know, you're our point of contact as lay people for, you know, for how the general public, because you're the state agency that is primarily tasked with dealing with the general public for how they're taking it. I mean, do you see a kind of a re-recognition of severity?
Right. I'm generally concerned that there's been a level of fatigue. I think that that's kind of part of human nature with this, and then the mix of the holidays being thrown in with that, and people wanting to be with family and loved ones that they're not normally around in their bubbles, as we try to say.
Yeah.
That probably has contributed to some of this. You know, we're definitely continuing to try to promote that message that, you know, this isn't over yet. I mean, we're still in it, and we need to continue to take precautions and continue to be aware of where the risks lie and to avoid those. And that's very important for everybody to continue to do.
All right, thank you, Mary. I'm sorry, Robert.
Sure. Well, I think just on that point, though, also, when people get a vaccine, it doesn't give them a hall pass either. They still have to get the second vaccine. I think there's still a waiting period after that. So, you know, I was, of course, joking with the over 65 population yesterday of, you know, don't go out and party like it's your 21st birthday tonight. We are not there yet, but this is one step, and in, you know, a month to 6 weeks, you'll have, you know, the vaccine will have taken effect. You would have gotten your second dose. So, but don't. Just because you've gotten your vaccine, don't be lax in your precautions and what you're doing to, and so I hope we can, if one message comes out to those that are getting shots at Brownsville or getting shots at Olive Baptist Church, is that the shot is not the magic bullet to prevent you from you still need to take precautions, you still need to do the rest of the, you know, so you don't have a hall pass to just to go out and do whatever you want.
And I'm sorry, Marie, I guess the last, and I hate to monopolize questions, but, so are we seeing more people that are testing positive multiple times?
They're not going to show up on this report.
You say they're not, are they?
They're not going to show up on the, like, the total cases. So if you've tested positive, then that goes into that 21,000, 24,000. They will impact the percent positivity return.
They do impact that, but they don't impact the gross number of positives. Are you seeing, and I just say this because anecdotally I've had, you know, conversations with people, and they've, you know, their brothers tested positive 4 times. I mean, and I've heard more of that over the last month than I heard, you know, previously, which is going to, I guess, be natural as time goes on. But are you seeing more multiple positivity? I thought that, and this is again being a layperson, I thought you developed an antibody and wouldn't contracted again.
So I think, Commissioner, I think there's 2 points here. There's one of someone who's maybe tested positive in the last 2 weeks that goes and gets a test and tests positive again. I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think
No,
you're talking about someone who tested positive in, say, April.
Yeah.
Who should have clearly.
3 months later or
3
something.
months,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And now, 6 months later, they've tested positive again. So
Yes, there is that possibility for what we call reinfection. So that would be somebody that's had it, and then, has maybe either tested negative or not had symptoms, and then comes into contact with it again. I'm not seeing or hearing a lot of instances of reinfection, but I have, nationally and statewide, we have heard of cases of that.
Have we had any reports of the other, a different strain of the virus itself?
Again, not locally, we have heard instances of identifying the strain that has been publicly noted in the media in Florida.
Right, but we haven't had.
But I
we
have
haven't had
not heard that locally.
And the test that we're doing would reveal that strain. It would reveal the same virus, but a different strain of the virus?
I would have to check on that answer for you.
Steve, my understanding is that when a person tests positive, that strain is then tested. Is my understanding how they determined the strain in Florida was that maybe they do, I don't know if it's random checks or something, but once that strain was identified in that county, I believe all positives from that county started getting checked for that strain.
So the test is encompassing
I think
potentially multiple
I think it's a
strains.
second step. I think it's the original test then gets tested for identifying the strain, is my understanding. You're probably, the first test identifies if the virus is present. The second stage or step would be defining what strain of that virus.
Okay, all right.
That's my understanding of what
Thank you.
I've read. I don't want to make that official, but that was my understanding of it.
I can certainly dig into that a little bit more
Okay.
and bring that back.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, because and obviously the vaccination is what we're talking about, but these questions and the uncertainty and, and all of that plays into, it plays into the fear, and fear, in my opinion, fear is what is driving the types of communications that I think all of us are getting from constituents, because candidly, they're angry, they're scared, they want somebody to be upset with, and that's back to what y'all were talking about. We're the lowest hanging fruit for that. So that's us. And so I don't take the tone of the comments personally. But it's coming from them being afraid and not. The same question. They have less access to information than we should have, and it's still difficult for us to ascertain what reality is, and so they're scared, and that's making that's making the emotions be the way, and that's, I think, playing into the tenor of the tone that we're getting from them, and that's why we just.
Well, not
it's
to throw
difficult.
shade on any of the organizations that are doing it, but we're also the ones answering the phone.
Right.
So they've called around, they finally get someone who answers the phone, which again, I'm not saying that, because clearly you guys are out there working and everything else, but again, they get someone in our office that has an ear and they go, and I think based on our positions, we all feel that, we're here to help and we want to try to do what we can, but as we say, the vaccine's not coming to Escambia County Board of County Commissioners. It's going to the Department of Health, it's going to the hospitals, and so, we really don't have control over the vaccine itself, but I think we feel that, and this is where this conversation is going today, is how can we improve the information for our citizens?
Yes.
How can we improve the process, and what can we do to help? But, yep. Okay.
And Robbie, and when you say that, and I certainly agree that it comes from the state, but we will have to answer to citizens, what is our capacity for the vaccine countywide? That's a fair question for citizens to ask us, and that's a fair question for us to figure out. Because there is a lot of anxiety and uncertainty about this vaccine. So I guess, Maria, that would be a question. What is our capacity countywide for the vaccine?
But again, is that for Marie or is that for with all of our hospitals? Because, I was hoping to get a minute with the governor yesterday and Sacred was saying, hey, we can do 4,000 a day, but that's separate from
Well, I'm
what
not
Marie
saying
can
it,
do.
well, if it's not Marie, then Robert, it's us, because we're the ones that are elected. And so I hear what you're saying. I'm not putting, Marie's a dear friend. I'm not putting her on the spot. We're working hand in hand. But those are fair questions, and I don't necessarily know if it's to the hospitals unless, we're funding them money and we expect a ROI. But I think it's a fair discussion question, and maybe we don't have the answer, but it's fair for someone in the north end of the county to know exactly what is our capacity of, right now, of being able to administer a vaccine in Escambia County. I don't really consider that an unfair question.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
But, yeah, I know we want to keep going because we want to make sure but go ahead. Jeff,
Yeah,
go ahead.
well,
I have some more questions, but I can.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
do too, and I think what you've done is you put your finger on the jugular when we're talking about distribution of the vaccine. That's where the logjam is, and I'm going to be very polite when I say it's been kind of a cluster, right? That's what I've been told in angry emails and people calling me. But it's not unlike, we're being blamed for the meal that comes out of the kitchen, but we're not allowed in the kitchen, nor are we allowed to purchase the ingredients. Later today, we're going to be asked to approve a $3.5 million contract. I spent the last week and a half discussing it with staff, trying to work out exactly why we would do such a thing. And I understand, Commissioner May, we want to get to the point of answering the question, what is the capacity? But I think the capacity is, how do we get the flu shot out? You got CVS, you got Walgreens, you got Publix, you've got Health
And I
Health.
respect that, Jeff, but we know the capacity, how many flu shots we got in Escambia County.
Well, exactly, and so I think we need to replicate that strategy, and we shouldn't be picking winners and giving a large sum of money to one local hospital. Let's just be very frank about it. My interest is, I understand it's a not-to-exceed contract, but I want the maximum number of channels opened up for citizens to receive this vaccine. So that means I'm not necessarily inclined to support a $3.5 million contract to one of our 3 hospitals. What I'm inclined to support is one agreement with a not-to-exceed amount that any licensed qualified facility can tap into. If we're talking about $25 per resident to do it, that's what I'm going to support, because I believe that's what we need to do. And that's how you get
But
the
Jeff-
maximum number of vaccinations done. I don't want to pick winners. I don't want to pick one hospital, get all the money. I think all of the hospitals should get some. I think Community Health should get some. Health and Hope Clinic, Publix, all of the above.
Well, see, Jeff, where I disagree with Publix, CVS, and Walgreens, Pfizer, it's a $1 billion industry. People have insurance and they're getting it.
Correct.
To me, I have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to vaccine those who don't have the
Sure.
ability to do that. And that would be the uninsured. And so, to me, that would be where the gap fill comes.
But you can do both. It's not a binary choice. We give an allotment to the hospitals, we pay them for the uninsured, that's fine. I just don't want to pick one hospital to get it, because then you're taking the supply chain and you're creating a logjam artificially. I want Community Health to have the vaccine. I want Health and Hope Clinic.
But
I
Jeff, it's
want
about who's
Publix.
getting the vaccine. If they're not getting the vaccine, and again, my understanding is that some of them said, no, they said Sacred can do it, so, but we do need to get back-
No, say that again. Say that again, what you just said.
that some of them said, no, we're good.
Well, I don't believe that to be the case. See,
Okay.
that's what I was
All right.
told, and I
Well,
reached out to the president of
hey, Jeff,
Baptist, and I
Jeff,
reached out to West Florida.
Let's try to stick with the PowerPoint. We need,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys need to go on, so we can save this discussion for tonight. I'm sorry, but I'm just, we do have a couple other people
Well,
that are here that we're trying to
it's
get to.
directly related to that, Mr. Chairman.
I understand
Directly
that.
related to what we're talking about.
And all I'm saying, we can't move forward with this conversation. Exactly where you're coming, Jeff, is what is the availability for that vaccine in Escambia County? How many does the hospital have? How many do they have?
right. We don't
That's
know.
the bottom line.
And
if
no
you
one's
don't know-
telling us.
and
No
that's
one's
the
telling us.
That's the reason I said that we needed a point person that's ultimately responsible. If Chip, tell me how many West Florida Sacred Heart Baptists have, give me the actual data, exactly what they have. Rather than me, my mind is not going to change for a PowerPoint and getting that answer.
But I think part of it is they don't know the answer. I mean, that's why they can't go ahead and start scheduling people that are on the list, because they don't know when they're getting the vaccine or how much of it they're getting. Is that right? I mean, to a degree.
Well, we should do a demand to the governor, because we deserve to know.
Well, we are going to send a letter. We are going to ask that he set up a vaccination site similar to the testing site that he set up at UWF over the summer.
Perfect.
And I think that was part of what Sacred was able to demonstrate yesterday, that if you give Northwest Florida the vaccine, if you give Escambia County the vaccine, we will make sure it gets into the arms of the citizens. We will not sit on it like some places are doing in the state of Florida for, they say, hey, we have enough for 2 weeks. Keep sending it here. We'll make sure it'll get distributed to our people.
And Robert, I get that. I mean, and I know we got to move forward. It gives me heartburn that we're doing a vaccination and people have to call Santa Rosa and it comes. I mean,
Exactly.
if people have to register on the computer and they can't register on the computer, to me, our advocacy should be those type of things and breaking down the barriers that keep us
I believe we
from
also have a
getting it.
phone number that they can use for the Department of Health. I mean, I did see a number come out the other day.
Try calling it and see how long.
Yeah.
they
Well,
stay
I
understand
online.
that. I understand
Yes,
that.
let's try calling it
So-
and see how efficient that is.
Yeah, you hit option 6, and it says go sign up on the web. There are people that do not have computers, and they're calling the number. There's been so much frustration. I've kept my comments very reserved, but, I mean, there's been a lot of complaints, frankly. And so, we're asked, and we're blamed. We're blamed for it. It's,
Absolutely, we blame.
And so, I when I get blamed for something, you heard what I said about FDOT. When I get blamed, I'm gonna try and solve the problem. I'm gonna take the call, but then I'm gonna channel the anger toward those who are responsible. And so in this particular instance, it's the state. This is the state's rollout. This is not Escambia County's rollout. But to the extent that we're able, I want to be a supportive partner. I know we all do.
But Jeff, if our dashboard doesn't look like the state dashboard, if you can't
It's
go
better than
online
the state's
right now-
dashboard. It's better.
But if it doesn't agree, it still gives me a reason to question whether
Yeah.
which one is accurate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it may be better. I'm not saying the county's
Sure.
not better.
It is better.
Well, I mean, I'm
I'm
not
out.
evaluating nor am I judging. I'm saying the data is the data and it should be consistent. They both should be the same. I can't look at a state dashboard and a county dashboard and it's different and then expect for the citizens to have confidence in what they're reading. And so, to me, that's why it's important to have a point person. And
Commissioner, if you want to make your 11 o'clock, I suggest we go.
yeah, you're right. Go ahead. Well, I mean, I don't know what we're
That's a
gonna
good
do.
point.
I don't know what we're gonna get accomplished.
Commissioner, what you mentioned confidence, and that's what concerns me. I'm the confidence in the successful, again, whatever role, if this was being if it was mass available and being mass distributed through CVS or Walgreens, that seems like the more, that same way the flu shots are done or whatever. That doesn't seem like that's apparently not how this is going to go. So if that's the case, and we do have, we're going to have a role, if we're having to pay for it, then that makes us have a role. So if we're going to have a role, the confidence and the ability for us to have a successful deployment of a vaccination distribution plan, when I'm not confident that we've got the ability to currently intake even the request for vaccinations, like a composite, a list. If we can't figure out how to successfully create a repository for people to make requests and have a list, it concerns me about our ability to successfully deploy a vaccination deployment system. The list would seem to be a more a lower obstacle. And so, the other part of it is very important, but that seems like a pretty basic part. And we've got, in my opinion, we've got to be able to come out today with how to do that. And I don't know the answer. I'm asking.
But I will tell you, Steve, there's 10,000 names on the list already in
Right.
Escambia
I-
County. We've already
that's
got a
how many
list.
there
But
was
they're
on
not-
Monday
but-
morning.
Well,
That's-
but I don't know that they're a list, and I think that I don't think they're all Escambia County residents. Yeah, I don't know who all has access to that list. If it's going to be a multi-agency partnership for vaccine distribution, then there's going to have to be information sharing between agencies of, if they're going to operate this list in a silo and this list in a silo and this list in a silo, how does that work?
And Steve, I agree with you. All I'm saying is, like you said, we're not gonna come up with a plan, but give us the plan and let us endorse and support the plan. I
So,
mean, it's,
so just real quick, Steve, I think the plan is that it is going to roll out to CVS, Walgreens, and Publix. There's already 3 counties that are going to Publix. So my understanding is this is the stopgap until we get there. It may be a little off, but this is until we can get to that stopgap of it being at CVS, being like the flu shot. This is to help us get there.
When do we have, okay.
And
I hope that's the
we've been
case.
working with those entities for weeks and trying to help with this rollout with the state
Yeah.
doing that.
So do we think that this period of time, if that is all we're going to serve as, do we think that's a month?
That, that's the $64,000 question. I mean,
Okay.
that is the ultimate part, the ultimate goal of the plan, and even initially, as many times as the plan has changed from the state, the ultimate goal was to get it mainstreamed as quickly as possible, so you could get a vaccine just like you would get a flu shot.
Okay, so, and I realize that you're the head of the state agency here locally. How is that being coordinated with the federal government and their supply of vaccine going to places? This is, secondhand information, but as of Tuesday, Walgreens didn't have any doses. They received some on Tuesday. There was, I believe, 500 doses that are being distributed through long-term care facilities. I mean, that's as recently as Tuesday this week. But my understanding is they didn't get their doses from the state. They got them from those came from the federal government. And how is that going to work with the federal government, kind of piecing out doses also to what these partners are? Do we have, is it like FDOT? Okay, back to FDOT stuff. So Federal Highways pays for our interstate system, but it's all deployed through FDOT. So we don't ever have any direct contact with Florida, with Federal Highway. Even though it's Federal Highway money, it's all goes through. Is that your role in the federal government's part of the vaccine supply and dose distribution? Are you entitled to all the information that the federal government's going to be providing doses here? I mean, do you know that Sacred received, 2,000 doses from the state and, 1,500 from the federal government, and then, Walgreens got how many ever from the federal government, and West Florida Hospital got this from the federal? Are you entitled to that?
I don't have that personally at this moment. I don't know if that is going to change, because my perception of this is that this is an evolving situation. So, originally my understanding was everything's funneled into the state health department and pushed out from there, but it is not happening like that now. So things have changed. And I think it's just like the beginning of this, when our understanding of the virus and how it's transmitted and what the risks were changed until we kind of had a better understanding of that. We're working through those issues and details now at the beginning of this vaccine availability situation.
The private partners that are getting doses through the state, is that coordinated with your office as well? Or is that directly between the emergency management and one of the entities?
There appears to be a direct pipeline from the state through the governor's office or emergency management to other entities.
Okay, is the state going to give us one person here that would be this point person that's going to be if you're not in the middle of if you're not in the center, in the hub of the wheel for this, if that's not your responsibility or you're not being entitled to that, are they going to give us somebody that is entitled to that?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a good question. And my intent right now is to work that from my end and to be that hub if I have to get the information locally or from the state. And unless and until that changes, I mean, that's what we're working on right now as partners.
And I'm going to have Director Gilmore talk about a little bit. My understanding is that, maybe the state's telling them, you need to go do XYZ long-term care facility, and giving it to I don't know if it's Walgreens, but giving it to them and saying, this is your mission. And so it's not coming to the local DOH as part of their shipment, because it is a specified, like I said, this is your mission to go vaccinate, the Haven or whatever.
Right.
So
to answer your question, the federal government sends the allocations to the state of Florida. State of Florida knows a week, 7 days out, how many vaccines or doses they're going to get statewide. State DEM then dictates where that goes, whether an allocation goes to DOH, an allocation goes to our CVS and Walgreens partners that are doing the long-term care facilities, or they go to the hospital. Baptist Hospital, for example, yesterday asked for 1,000 dosages to finish up their healthcare workers. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, they would start doing in-house 65 and over to meet the governor's executive order. So
In-house patients, admitted patients.
in-house
okay,
patients.
okay.
Now, they are willing to do more in-house or bring people in and draw them in. So they're willing to play. You're right. So I've tried to find out, how do I order this? So, typically we do WebEOC. So when I need to request something from the state of Florida, I put a WebEOC request in. And when I called Tallahassee, I was told that we needed to call Director Malkowitz straight to him. So I had the CEO, Mark Faulkner, I gave him Jerry Malkowitz's phone number to call and request the vaccine. So that's how things are going right now.
So
They're
nothing-
hodgepodge everywhere.
So,
and go ahead.
so nobody's getting doses directly from the federal government?
No, it's coming from the state. The state's receiving it and the state's dishing it out. That's how it's going. So
Okay.
with the Brownsville thing, that was a prime example of us having to do their directive because they're the holder of the vaccine, and that's why we had to do that route for the 500. So
Okay, so if everything's coming through the state, then we are going to know.
the state should know, but they're not letting us know at the local level. And to be honest with you, we've asked on the statewide calls, the Department of Emergency Management calls, if we can see the allocations and have that answer, because this is a question we knew we was going to get from you guys. Statewide, we don't even see where all those doses are going.
So so then the private, it's tasked on the private entities, or just say the four hospitals, just say or four agencies, private/public, not CVS and Walgreens, but those four partners, it's tasked on them to then proactively request the doses from the state?
Yes, sir. That's, as of right now, as it stands, yes, sir. That's how they're doing it.
Okay.
And that's how Justin got his additional, and that's good on them. We need that partnership to get out there and we want to get this going.
Yeah.
And as the governor said yesterday, and as Justin's presented, that they can get out in front of this, the more we can get out, the more we've been told we will get. So that's why it's a collective effort to get this as a mass push out there.
And we're trying to do it in a way that's organized, not hysterical.
We were told,
not panicked.
not first come, first serve, appointments only. I know there's growing pains in this, and it was growing pains in the testing.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough testing, and you're right. Until we get that vaccine in here, we're going to have those growing pains.
But
But predominantly,
ideally-
we will be in Walgreens, CVS, doing the pharmacy thing.
But ideally, we can learn from, I mean, no two things are exactly the same, but some of the mistakes that we made or some of the challenges that we had in the testing, I would hope that we can avoid those in this. I mean, there is some correlation between testing and distribution
There
of
is.
vaccines.
There's a little bit of a logistical delay because now we have the 15-minute observation
Right, yeah.
period. We are learning from those things, and that's, I think, why Brownsville was kind of successful, is we looked at South Florida and saw 5,000 people lined up for 1,500 doses and said, ooh, that's not good. Now, they're still doing drive-up testing, but there are people running out of fuel.
Right.
There's people that have been in lines for an hour and have no restrooms out in the open field. So how
Sleeping
you-
in their cars.
in the car, sitting in the car. So we're trying to avoid that and do it a little bit more calmly, and we're going to get it out. It's going to get there, and the citizens have been patient, and the ones that have came through that I've met, they said, we thank you, and it's been wonderful. So we're working those issues.
Well, they've been successful in their efforts, so they're.
I get that. So they're
Yeah,
happy. They've
yeah.
got what they've come for. So
But, okay, so when someone calls and wants to try to make an appointment, how are we going to ascertain, okay, Sacred's got 3,000 doses and West Florida's, got 1,000, or Baptist's got 1,000, or Community Health's got whatever.
Right.
Or who is going to own the call center that receives the request for appointment?
So I can't speak to that solely, but I do know that Sacred Heart, Community Health, and the Health Department all talked yesterday about getting on that very page and making sure that we're working off a common list and trying to get that pushed through. So I
Okay,
do
just
know
the list thing.
discussion has
Okay,
been-
so that was yesterday. I mean, y'all were talking about trying to have one list that everybody has access to.
Right.
Because when somebody gets vaccinated, I mean, ideally, they would be struck from the list,
Right.
and then.
That's
No-
correct.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Eric, let me just interject a question, since we're talking about distribution now of the vaccines. Tonight, we're going to be asked to approve a $3.5 million,
sir.
essentially appears to be a sole source contract with one hospital. I'm not going to support that.
Okay.
Wouldn't it make more sense, like you just said,
Well-
to have every channel, every hospital, every clinic, community health, anyone that's licensed and able to do this, providing vaccinations to our citizens, working from the same agreement? So, I mean, why can't we take that $3.5 million sole source contract, and instead of having one hospital's name in there, change that to any licensed, because it's a not to exceed. We're not going to pay them that up front. We're going to pay as we go, but open up as many channels of distribution as we can. Does that not make the most sense? I mean, that's what I'm going to support. I'm not
No,
going
and I
to,
get
I'm not
you.
going to say you get to hoard all the doses and then we're going to have a log jam in the supply chain. I want every hospital and every clinic to be able to distribute the vaccine and collect the 24 or 25 bucks if they're uninsured. That way, the citizens have the most opportunities to get. Does that make sense to
No,
you?
you're right. And the hospitals are going to, so I've talked to the hospital, I've talked to
They
Baptist.
want to do it. I've talked to them too.
Well, so I talked to Gay and I talked to Lisa Lavoie and I had Scott Rains on the phone this week and I asked them, would you be willing, I'd asked, would something like what Sacred Heart's presenting as a testing, like they did with testing? And they said, look, they hadn't got there yet with their discussion of what that looks for them, is what I was told. They are going to get the vaccine out internally and through their clientele, and they're looking at maybe doing fast tracks in the hospital, so you do book an appointment, you come in the hospital, but not on the large-scale production that Justin is wanting to turn this thing around and do the drive-through testing like he had done previously. So they want to do it. They just work, at the time.
Well, I want to hear that from them because that's,
Okay.
with
And Jeff, that's
respect,
what I
with
wanna
respect,
hear.
that's not what I heard from
Okay,
the,
and that's
that's not what I heard from them.
They weren't ready to do it at large scales, what Justin's ready to do with the drive-through and how he did the testing and everything.
Well-
But internally, they're going to do it internally, and they're going to do fast track internally is what I was told, so.
Well, again, I'm going to go back and speak with them again
Yes, sir.
today because I think they weren't part of the conversation. In fact, when I spoke to them last week, a week and a half ago, they said, we had no idea this was happening.
Okay.
So I think we have to bring all our partners into the conversation early on, and then maybe they could have stood up the capacity to do the drive-through.
What-
They were left out of the conversation.
Well, they offered up, so, no.
Well, no, I mean, they were there at Brownsville. I mean, they offered
Yeah,
nurses
that's
at
yesterday.
Brownsville.
They were
The other
all
day.
partners.
That's the other day.
They-
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're going to offer up staffing. They're not out of this. They're
Okay.
in this. They've told me they're in this.
I guess what I'm saying is I want them, if they want
I
to the
just-
ability they're able to, I
Right.
want them to be able to draw down these funds as
Right.
well and help vaccinate the community.
And, right, so, okay.
And Jeff, excuse me, Jeff, and I respect everything that you're saying, my friend. That's why this conversation and this hour waste of our time is not going to get any results because they said that they were going to do it. I talked to them. I don't know. You talked to him. He talked to him. There's not one written protocol on the deliverables. What I do know is for public distribution, Community Health and Sacred Heart did do that. And not to say that West Florida Baptist was not providing any, that was just not their mission, not their goal, not their ministry. And if that is their goal in their ministry, kudos, let's do it. But let's get the written protocol. I mean, we're going to spend another hour. You've talked to Baptist, he's talked to Baptist. They said they might do it. We got to, at some point, bring this in for a landing. And we're not. I mean, because quite frankly, as you said, Maria's not going to be able to say anything to represent the state. She's just not going to be able to do that in vaccine.
I know how to do it. I know how to do it. Here's how you do it.
Well, let's do it.
You take the contract that we're going to approve tonight, and you strike the one hospital, and you put any licensed facility. And that way, as West Florida stands up their capacity, as Baptist, as Publix, as CVS, as Community Health, as Health and Hope, you get more channels coming, drawing down that 3.5 million. The way it's written tonight, that's exclusively going to one of our 4 hospitals. I'm not going to
So-
support
But
that.
we're
I
only
would
doing,
make
but Jeff, aren't we only doing
Hold on a
uninsured?
second.
Excuse me, aren't we only doing uninsured?
Well, it's 3.5 million.
For
is
uninsured.
Specified, yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is that we did put the 3.5 million in there as a placeholder. You can certainly reduce that number. I would encourage you to approve what is in front of you for tonight because it is for Ascension and Community Health Northwest to both get started immediately. You can reduce the number to any number that you would like, and then we can work with the other.
Can we make it with respect, can we make it non-exclusive and also add in the other?
But they won't be able to get started tomorrow if you do that.
No, they started now. I mean, they're not.
we're-
I mean,
no, they don't have
Community
access.
Health
We're
is not going to not serve
Yeah,
people.
yeah, I'm not going to slow
correct.
down Ascension or Community
Excuse me?
Health.
But we're not reimbursing them because they don't have a contract, and I'm more than happy for them to come forward and speak
Right,
about that.
and I understand that, Madam Administrator, but they are not servicing people.
Jeff's talking about approving the contract. He's not talking about not approving.
I'm
the
talking about
contract.
approving it, but approving it modified so that all of our healthcare providers can provide the shot. Because that's what makes sense. You want the maximum
And-
number of delivery
and
channels.
I'd even be fine if the need is to add dollars to the contract.
Yeah, whatever.
It's to incorporate the other partners, if that's what if we need to add some money to the contract. It's one of the reasons that, we, through the way that we deploy the CARES money, we still have access and control over a lot of those funds.
Yeah.
And Steve, I
mean,
would say.
we used them in very reasonable and eligible and legal ways, but we still do have a lot of control over those funds. And if what we need to do is put more money in the contract and add providers to it, or possible providers to partners to it, I don't see how that would hurt. That's not going to slow down the deployment of the projects with Sacred or with Community
So
Health.
Exactly.
the concern, I'm not disagreeing
Steve.
with what you're recommending. What I'm saying is that whenever you work with corporate entities and they have to run it through their legal departments and things like that, that sometimes can be a holdup in getting an agreement worked through.
Yeah, but that'll be their
That's what I'm
problem.
more concerned about.
That'll be their problem, Janice. This isn't going to hold up Ascension. This isn't going to hold up Community Health. We put this out there and we say, West Florida, you can tap into it if you so choose. Baptist, you can. They're going to want to. They're going to want to help the community as well. You put it out there and let them deal with that. It doesn't slow down what we're
So
doing.
Jeff, let's talk about this holistically here. One, we shouldn't be having to approve this to begin with.
Of course.
Okay?
Of
So
course.
we've been working with DOH for the last 2.5 weeks and trying to figure out why it's being put on Escambia County
Exactly.
to administer the vaccines. And exactly. And so,
Amen.
so this is, this is a way that we can go ahead and, one, we don't anticipate that we're going to have to do all 3.5 million with Sacred Heart, right? This is the stopgap until it gets into the Walgreens, the CVS, the Publixes, okay? But here's the thing, and I think you and I both agree on this. I'm not going to be the one that's not going to vote for this money to go and have the opportunity for people to start getting vaccines because I'm saying, well, it shouldn't be on us to pay for it.
Of course.
Okay,
Of
we
course.
can have that fight later. I mean, we've been discussing with FDEM on again, why we're even having to have this discussion tonight, that we're having to pay for the to administer their vaccine. But I mean, just like with the short-term rentals, when it was put on us to reopen them, I'm not gonna have an argument about short-term rentals when we need to reopen them and let people start getting some income and everything else. We'll save that for another day. But, so, I really think that tonight's agenda item is to go ahead and give them the authority to start administering the vaccine as they can to the uninsured, and that we'll do that. And then we'll figure out the rest. I mean, we're still
Yeah,
discussing.
let
with-
Allison has a
But
easy fix.
let me make a point too, and with community health, and I mean, I think Sacred Heart and Community Health speak for themselves. We're not the only funding sources. There are federal and state funding sources that come forward. I don't think Community Health has asked for a dime in administering this vaccine. I mean, and they can speak for themselves today, but they hadn't asked for, 1 cent. I mean, I think they have other funding sources. I think it's just a collaborative effort. So I think that, that would have to be a conversation. And Sandra, I'd love for you to speak to that when you come forward, when y'all come down. But
Madam Attorney?
I was just going to say, the challenge with the way it's presented is it's 3.5 million for Ascension. So based on what the board is saying, what you want to do is two things. If you want to allocate money for this, set what that cap is, X amount of money. If it's 3.5, great, 3.5. Then individual contracts with any licensed provider, but the grand total cannot exceed 3.5 million.
Exactly.
It kind of sets up, then the grand total can't be more than 3.5 million. You end up in a first come, first served basis for those providers because you apparently have one that's ready. Or you need to indicate that no one provider can have more than X amount of that.
That's right, and no exclusivity
Yeah,
at all.
you got to kind of give guidance to administration on what those maximums per provider are going to be, or you're going to have untapped money sitting there waiting. But the way it's presented to you is 3.5 million for Ascension because presumably they're ready to go.
Yeah, but that was based on the extrapolation of the number of uninsured patients, and it essentially sets up an exclusive deal. That's what it looks like to me, and you're shaking your head, yes. We're not doing exclusive deals with one hospital. I'm not going to vote to do it, but I don't want to slow them down, though. I think there's a third way. It's not a binary choice. We set the contract up. Allison, you're an attorney. Can we put out a contract and give it to West Florida and Baptist and whoever else, whatever other licensed provider wants it, and let them fill out the signatory portion, as long as they meet the requirements?
My concern is the amount, though.
Well, you put a total pool of 3.5 million or 4, whatever we decide to do, not to exceed. And then someone keeps a running tab.
I don't care if it's 20 million.
I mean, whatever it takes to
whatever the
vaccinate
number
our
is for uninsured.
citizens,
As long as
whatever
we've
it takes.
long as we've regulated the fraud opportunity of not administering to people who have insurance and to private entities, that corporate America is trying to make more money. And that's the nuts and the bolts that legal should be able to put into the contract.
John, I'm sorry. I mean, Madam Madam Clerk, I mean, this ultimately comes to you. I mean, we've seen the issues we've had just trying to get the grant money out. And so, I mean, I think, listen, I think our hearts are all in the right place. We're trying to do the right thing, but we also need to look at it from a logistic standpoint on if what you're trying to, I mean, if you're saying that every doctor with a sign out front would be able to sign up and administer the vaccine and get reimbursed, you know.
What would be wrong with that, Robert? For the citizens who are dying to get vaccinated?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm saying, but it's going to be the same thing that we're having with the Family Cares Grant, is that, say they
I don't think
administer it,
so.
and then by the time that they submit the paperwork, the 3.5 million's up, are we going to then, you know, I mean, it's, again, we're talking about a small population, I believe, of uninsured people.
Well, then here's what
We've
you do.
already invested in uninsured when we gave $500,000 to community health in the plan.
Right.
That, I mean, people are not walking into their doctor's office without insurance.
Correct.
And most of the time, they're not walking into a hospital unless they're going to the emergency room, and they're probably not going to service them.
Wait a minute, that's my point.
And-
So then
and-
why
and
do we
so-
need to then
so
open it to everybody if that's not the avenue?
We have a tool in which we've been addressing uninsured, in which we've been buying down money. That's why we have publicly given money to community health to help the uninsured.
Sure.
And so, I mean, don't we have the ability to administer this vaccine through our public safety area? I mean, we're giving shots, don't we, to our own employees? Don't we have the ability?
Through public safety?
Yeah.
Through our building?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so-
haven't we been internally administering the vaccine?
A closed pod, yes, sir. We
Well,
have a
closed pod,
for
well,
our
it doesn't- I
responders.
don't
Yeah.
give a damn if it's an open pod. I mean, we still have the ability to
Right.
administer the vaccine, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
May I just make one comment? And I'm not trying to slow Ascension Sacred Heart down. I'm trying to make sure that if West Florida is capable, if Baptist is capable, they have the same facility, the same pool of money that they can draw down to help our citizens get vaccinated quicker. Look, if it's $1 for a beverage, I'm not going to walk up to Coke and just say, you get all the vouchers for all the beverages in the county. I want Snapple, I want Red Bull, I want Pepsi. I want every hospital and every clinic to be able to vaccinate citizens and draw down from this pool of money. I don't want to give an exclusive deal to one hospital just because they were first in line. God bless them. We love what they do. We don't want to slow them down. They'll get some kind of deal tonight, but I want the other hospitals to have the ability as well. I think there's a win-win for everyone here. Doesn't mean we're slowing anyone down. Maybe the clerk has a little extra work to do to keep up with it. Too bad.
A
Just-
little extra work.
yeah.
Okay.
A little extra work, that's right.
Yes.
For citizens to
Me
get
and
vaccinated,
Clara
yeah,
and
you'll have some extra
1
work.
Clara, where are you? We'll be seeing more of each other. Question, have the other hospitals gotten with you? Have they,
I've spoken, in fact, Kendrick's here today from West Florida, and I spoke to Mark Faulkner yesterday and 3 days ago, yeah.
And
And
they're
they're willing to participate, yeah.
it sounds like these three major hospitals, and they all have satellite
Sure.
buildings. So if you go with the three major hospitals and start divvying up some money now, that sounds responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But opening the door to everyone and not giving specifics is going to get a
Well,
little bit hard.
Pam, the specifics are in the 10-page contract. All you do is you scratch out Ascension Sacred Heart, and they put in West Florida. They have to agree to the same terms in the contract. The contract doesn't change. It's just the distribution channel widens so that we can get people vaccinated quicker, which is should be the objective, right?
Yes, yeah,
Right.
and so is everyone going to come up here to the meetings before they get approved? I mean, how long is this process
It's up to them.
gonna take?
We give them the contract and let them figure it out.
To her point, right now, the vaccine's going to the hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
and then the hospitals are disseminating through the affiliated doc in the boxes and everything around them. So small mom and pop doctor's offices and family practitioners, they're not getting it straight from the state. It's coming through the hospital distribution chain. So you're absolutely right. And
All right.
Yeah, but they
But
not-
Jeff, I just also want to hear,
They're gonna give
you've
them
said
out.
two things, though. Now, just then you said to the hospitals. Before you were saying to every doctor, clinic, everything else.
Yeah, all of the
So
above.
which is it? I mean, I think we.
It's both.
Well, I mean, I think if we do hospitals, I can get in with hospitals if, because ultimately I think that supply is going to be going through them.
Okay.
So I'll be comfortable going with hospitals, just carte blanche, anyone who, I mean, there's got to be a, yeah. So, again, this is a short-term fix, and again, this is not our preferred method. This
Sure.
is us still working with the state, trying to get them to
Okay, so
pay
what I'm
for it.
hearing is you would be fine with going with the three major hospitals?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but community health No?
Community health, yeah.
Well,
they
community
count,
health
yeah.
is doing more
Okay.
uninsured than anybody else.
That's what didn't make sense to me.
We've already
So
paid them.
Yeah, they're included in it. And
Okay.
when we talk about our
Could we
partners,
allow-
there's.
Could we allow Justin to please come up and speak on behalf of Ascension and their particular situation and their relationship with community health?
We can do that, but I'd like Ms. Smiley to also address
Yeah.
exactly her buy down and what she's doing with uninsured. Because I don't think, I mean, quite frankly, you know, Robert, I'll support whatever finance, but if we didn't give a dime today, they're not gonna stop vaccinations.
They're not. right?
No, that's just, no, I mean, so no one's gonna hold it over my head that if we don't give $3.5 million today.
we're gonna give it,
Yeah.
we're just not gonna pick a
Every
winner.
vaccination that will come into Escambia County, we'll give out. The problem is gonna be getting them here. I mean, so time is of the essence, but not necessarily for this reimbursement. A commitment, if we commit to doing whatever, we can figure the rest of it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the only reason that this item even came to you all is because we were told as staff before Christmas that the state was not going to be able to handle the vaccinations. Well, we felt like it was responsible to let you all know that. Because
No,
we
appreciate
do
that.
not
But that's
want.
contrary to what the governor said yesterday.
I understand what you're saying.
That's very contrary to what the governor said.
I understand, and we called the governor's office and discussed this with them.
Yeah, well, he said
So-
yesterday that he was gonna do. So no, that's what. the
So that was my
governor-
point.
But we
Is-
felt very strongly as staff that our citizens needed to have service. And this was the avenue that we had to bring to you all for that consideration. So that's why this is before you.
And the other thing, Commissioners, is that, as we talked yesterday, you know, Justin said they have the capacity to do 4,000 vaccines a day, and they don't need the state help to do it, you know? And so if I'm at FDEM and I've got an entity that's willing to give up 4,000 vaccines where all I've got to do is send the vaccine, or I've got another entity where I've got to send the people, I've got to do everything else, who am I going to send the vaccine to? So
Yeah, but we're paying the bill for that.
well,
We're being asked to pay.
We didn't yesterday, and so I think that's the thing we're trying to work out here. And you know what? If it means that we spend a little bit of money to do it, make sure that we're the ones getting those 4,000 vaccines versus some other county, I'm willing to spend it. So.
I want to get all those, Robert, but I do want to be mindful, Jeff, just like you. Whatever the number is set, coming out of this pandemic, we're going to need to be putting money aside for not only vaccines, we need to be putting money around for all the things that we don't even know that's going to happen because of this. And so, I mean, we're going back into a general fund and getting it. So we are going to have to be good stewards of money, and we're going to have to project long-term. And that's why I'm saying there needs to be, again, a czar, a person that's writing a plan. We're all just throwing paint up against the wall right now without a comprehensive plan. We don't even have a map. And so whatever, doesn't matter what Justin says, doesn't matter what Sandra says, doesn't matter what she says. By the time we walk out of here, we're going to forget 50% of what we said other than what we read in the paper. We got to, this is too serious to not have a plan and just to get here and debate it without protocols. I mean, every other organization would have a protocol. So I'm not willing to vote on anything without a protocol, Jeff. I mean, I'm just not. I mean, because it's a waste. I mean, it's just talking and thinking of an idea that may be a great idea. I mean, it has to be something that's vetted legally with administration that comes before us, that we got it, that if none of us were here tomorrow, that plan could still be implemented, Jeff.
Yeah, that's reasonable. But I think, but again, before
And I get it.
before we hear from Justin, I mean, I would just say this. If we open it up to the maximum number of licensed providers to provide this vaccine, it would be up to them at what speed they want to do it, at what speed they want to request. It wouldn't slow down Justin. Justin could request 10,000 a day. He ain't going to get it. He could request as many as he wants, but it would take away this notion of this exclusivity. I want everyone to be in on this together. We want to all be pulling from the same side of the rope.
But look, I'm
And that
just happy
means-
people want the vaccine, because I remember 8-9 months ago, people didn't think it was real. So
No,
you
they
know
want
what?
it now. They want it.
Now we got some believers in
But
this.
there's been some rumors and things like this too, that certain people are jumping the line if they're, a donor. And, I want to make sure that none of that's going on. And that's why, again, I want the citizens that are emailing me right now saying, who do I call? Where do I go? What do I do? I want to be able to call them up, pick up the phone and call them, because I'll do that, and say, you can go to Baptist Hospital, you can go to West Florida Hospital, you can go to Ascension, you can go to Community Health, you can go to Health and Hope Clinic, you can go to Scooby-Doo. I don't care. I want everyone who wants to be in on this, and whatever it costs, we'll pay the bill. But I don't want a contract that says Justin and Ascension get $3.5 million as a block grant, and for 100,000 vaccines. You're not going to have the capacity as big as you are to do that.
And Jeff,
We need all people pulling from the rope.
As many people as we can get to get the vaccine, the more the merrier.
So let's do it. Let's be smart and fix the contract
All
tonight
right.
so that it's not exclusive, so that it opens it up.
So, all right, morning, Justin, thank you.
Hey, how's it
Yeah, good
going?
to see you. I know yesterday went well, and you and I was going to say recap a little bit of what you guys are doing today and yesterday?
Sure,
And
absolutely.
then talk a little bit about what we've been discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we vaccinated 2,000 people yesterday between Olive Baptist Church and Milton Community Center. Commissioner Bender was there. We had some long lines. Those are not there today. So we vaccinated 350 people in an hour this morning. So the biggest issue I think is going to be is supply chain, right, of vaccines. So coming into the Pensacola area, and the governor was here yesterday, we were challenged on January 1st to set up a mass vaccination clinic because we knew we could open up a pipeline of vaccines to the Pensacola area. So as far as the contract, I have no concern if it's opened up to the 3 hospitals. Doesn't bother me at all. Community Health has been our partner for 10 months in COVID testing, but we've been the main player in COVID testing. We'll be the main player in vaccines. It doesn't matter. So, it's just all about supply chain. So, a couple things, COVID testing, we're still going to do that. 30% positive rate last week. We're at our worst in 10 months. So we've got to do anything we can with vaccines. Now, as far as...
Sorry, just real quick.
Yes.
When you say that, though, that's what your
that-
two
that-
entities
That is
are
me
saying.
between
So,
Santa Rosa County and Escambia County combined, not what was on that.
Right, so
sheet
not
there.
what Marie put, that's
Yep.
across the board for
Thank
Escambia
you for
County.
clarifying that.
That's for
Yep.
their 2 entities,
That's for
which
me. And
which
Santa
are
Rosa
also
County's a little
the
worse.
rapid test, which you have to have symptoms to do and all that kind of stuff. So
Correct.
it is expected they have a higher, go
Yep,
ahead.
and we're seeing about 30% have symptoms and 70% don't, because you were asking about that earlier. So,
Justin, what did you say? What was the breakdown?
About 30% of the people who are COVID testing have symptoms. About 70% do not. Yes.
Are testing or testing positive?
That is testing.
Testing.
That is testing. Yep, exactly. So, and
They
we're.
have a 30% positive rate.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but we asked this question before. Of the 70% that are asymptomatic that are testing, do we have any kind of a percentage of them that come back? I'd like to know who's walking around asymptomatic. And
Yeah,
no
and
one,
I don't have those details right now.
No
Yep.
one's capturing that metric. That's astonishing to me.
Yeah, I'm sure we could if we had enough manpower. Our main goal right now for vaccinations is do it as fast as we can. So we're going to continue to do mass vaccination clinics. We're going to work with Escambia County Health Department too on that list of 10 or 11,000 people that they have. What we're doing in Santa Rosa County is whenever we have additional days for vaccinations, we can leave 50% of those available appointments for them to go through their list, and the other ones can be open to the public. We've started that in Santa Rosa County already. We can do the same thing in Escambia County to start eating away at that list. But, we just didn't pick out that $24 out of the sky. That was all about, covering the uninsured. We're seeing about 22% of the drive-through COVID testing population are the uninsured population. So we assumed that was going to be the same for vaccinations.
If we didn't approve this $3.5 million, how would you collect your overhead? Would you continue to vaccinate if we didn't approve this?
We're going to do our mission and do what's right,
Yeah.
but we're going to lose money on it if we don't get this. So COVID testing.
I'm not saying we wouldn't. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
people
So
would want to know.
I'll just tell you. So COVID testing last year, Ascension Sacred Heart ate $1.3 million to COVID test the Escambia County.
So you would continue to vaccinate if this didn't get approved tonight?
I'm going to. We wanted to make the request though.
Yep, gotcha.
So we're going to do what's right. So, but Get Sacred Heart Care is how we are going to schedule them going forward. The hardest thing. So we've between the Brownsville event and what we're doing the last 2 days, we're ahead of most of the counties in the state of Florida. I had multiple hospitals calling me from the Orlando area yesterday saying, how are you doing it? And it comes down to the registration system that interfaces with your health record, which interfaces with Florida Shots. And that's what the Get Sacred Heart Care is. They go pick an appointment. If they go there and there's no appointments, there's no appointments. But we had all of our appointments fill up in 2 hours. So as soon as they're out there, they fill up in 2 hours, and it is a happy bunch of 65-plus-year-olds.
And
right
Justin,
now.
on the ones that are being administered today, I actually learned of that through a P&J alert on Tuesday night, I think. So when you guys found out you had more supply, I saw a P&J alert came across and said, here's the link, go register. So, I think that was one way we were getting the word out, that the ones were available today.
Absolutely. We're trying to communicate, because it's going so fast, we're trying to get as many media outlets as possible.
Justin,
But-
how do you
Yes, sir.
decide? It's just by just call in your number?
No, this is, they are going online. They're going to get sacredheartcare.com. There's an appointment. It'll say, like today, you would see appointments starting at 8:30.
What if they can't go online and they're just calling? How do you
So,
read it?
so the way that we have it, and I know we're working with the health department here, is where they can enter online for them. That's what we're doing in a lot of, if they call the hospital and they can't go onto a computer, we're entering it for them on that website. I can enter it on behalf of a family member on that website, but we have people answering the phones in Santa Rosa County that are doing the same thing for Santa Rosa County residents.
And do you know the wait time on those phone lines when they're calling the health
So
department?
those aren't run by my group, so I do not know.
Any idea?
I'm not
Maria?
sure.
I think it's usually a busy signal if it's not.
No?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't, I mean, if you get through.
I'm just asking for the wait time, and so that's been a lot of complaints.
I think it's a hit or miss if you get through, and I think once you get through, then you get somebody and you can start the process.
Well,
But-
well, like Jeff, I mean, that's what I'm willing to help put money toward too. I mean, those things that make things more efficient for citizens of Escambia County. So if people are getting on the phone for 8-9 hours, then you know what? I'm gonna figure out how to get some money so they're not calling my office. And I'm not gonna be. And I hear what you're saying, Robert. Excuse me, but you said, well, if it's busy, well, you know what? I'm 65 and I got COVID. I'm scared. A busy is not an acceptable answer.
No, I understand, but I think maybe part of that was on Monday when there was the announcement. I don't know, how quickly, Justin, when we talked Monday, before you went to the press conference, we were hoping that website was going to be up and running by lunchtime or around lunchtime, and I think it ended up being closer to
9 o'clock
9:30
at night.
9 o'clock at night. And so I think that may have been some of the frustration was that people were going, they couldn't find it, they didn't see it, it was up. It was, I mean, we're probably running by the seat of your pants, and we were trying to get it activated, and I don't know what happened, but it
And I understand,
took
Mr.
some
Chairman, I
hours
just,
after the fact.
and I'm with you. All I'm saying, Justin and Sandra, Maria tasked with getting in the shots. I'm tasked in being responsive to citizens, just if we can help facilitate that. And that's my point of saying that there has to become dedicated personnel to assisting. No one's an island. We're all in this thing together, whether it be the health department, the state, the feds, or the county. I mean, it's one collaborative effort. And so everybody brings a different skill set. And that's why I enjoyed Brownsville. Sacred Heart was there, Baptist was there, Community Health, Department of Health, everybody was there. The county was there. Everybody stayed in their lane. And I think that if we find ourselves outside of the lane that we are able to handle, then, it is going to be mass confusion. So that's my whole point in making that statement, Justin.
The
Because
good
how do we
news
facilitate
is
that?
we are opening up the pipeline. So I received 2,500 vaccines yesterday. I'm getting another 2,000 today. So the thing is, they're coming to us. We are the safety net hospital for the Panhandle. And so I think between us, the FQHC, and the health departments, those are your three big players, but bring in the other two hospitals. If they get additional vaccines, do it.
And Justin, that's what I wanted you to address on why you're able to do these 2,000, 2,800 vaccines, whereas maybe the other hospitals.
You're saying 2,800 a day is what you're saying, Robert?
Well, I mean,
So we did 3,500 over the 2 days, and that's split between Milton Community Center and Olive Baptist right now. Now, next week, we are going to do, so Monday, they're not online yet, so I don't want anybody to go on the Get Sacred Heart Care and look for the appointment, but we're going to do Monday clinics again, and by the end of next week, we're looking for outreach in the South Santa Rosa and the North Escambia area between our two organizations. So, but.
Justin, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
This money that we're getting you for uninsured care, would it pay for uninsured of Santa Rosa as well, or will Santa Rosa County Commission be paying for the uninsured?
Santa Rosa's going to do their own thing.
and I believe they've already approved it, right?
Tonight.
Or they're doing it tonight, but
4:30, yeah.
they actually had,
I wouldn't anticipate anything at Santa Rosa.
well, they had actually reached a tentative agreement. I think you sent us information based on what you had reached with Santa Rosa,
Correct,
so.
correct.
That was why you reached out to us.
Yep, absolutely. But I'll let Chandra speak a little bit for our partnership.
So, as the federally qualified health center, our commitment in this partnership is to make sure that we are leveraging whatever federal resources that we can bring to the community to offset charity care. So, I do know that we are enrolled in the Provider Relief Fund, which we would be able to bill for. I understand that fund is going to be refunded to the tune of about $3+ billion, and having already enrolled and being attested as a provider, that is an option. I don't know when the funds are going to drop and what that looks like. But, you know, our commitment is to work with our partners to make sure that we are getting out throughout the community, to make sure that we are offering vaccines up in Century, Cantonment, Brownsville, West Side, throughout, so that all have access. And bill when we can, and leverage federal dollars when we can to offset the charity.
And I'll just say, of course, I've had a number of constituents at Pensacola Beach reach out, and I've tried to say that what's happening in Santa Rosa County, they can go use, but with the bridge being out, it is difficult for them to come all the way around. But, just for those that are in the beach, of course, we're trying to work with the South Santa Rosa site to get something that they would be eligible for, as they are with any of the other ones that Sacred Heart's doing.
Mr. Chairman, I see representatives of West Florida here. I see Kendrick Dodge in the back. I would like to offer him
I'd
the
like,
opportunity.
but Jeff, can I say something about
Yeah, sure,
Somalis
yeah.
here? In efficiencies, obviously, we want to make sure that Justin has the resources that he has.
Sure.
But it makes common sense to push as many uninsured to community health, because this stopgap of this 3.5, we'll never have to spend. She's going to be able to reimburse herself at the provider relief fund, because we're going to need every dime that we can get. So how do we strategically help Sandra? We ought to be pushing uninsured. It takes the load off of Justin at the hospital, where he gets those with insurance, and push the uninsured toward community health, because it's not going to cost our taxpayers any money. It's going to be reimbursed from the federal government. who has
And
billions of
Commissioner, that's why I
dollars.
was saying, I didn't want to just open it up to any entity that could get reimbursed with those funds. I mean, if you're uninsured, you may need to go to a specific site.
That's where we want to send you. Yeah,
We want to
exactly.
send you to community.
Because that's more money coming in. The money, the government, the federal government understands their responsibility. That's why you have a relief fund.
Sure.
Now, I agree, we come put whatever we need to put in the gap, because the government closest to the people would be us, and so we don't want anybody to ever show up and they can't get a vaccine. But we ought to be taking our marketing, our promotions, we ought to be helping set up more county sites. We ought to have 20 sites in partnership with community health, even if we're giving them some more money to staff it, because it makes more sense financially for us to send them to community health.
Well, and I don't disagree, but let's not forget the fact there are other free clinics that are actually free. They don't bill anyone. They have volunteer doctors, fully licensed, St. Joseph's Clinic, Health and Hope Clinic. They have licensed doctors, physicians. They don't charge a dime. No. So I don't want to necessarily close it down and say, hey, everything goes to her and him. Again, that's why I say licensed provider. Health and Hope Clinic, St. Joseph Clinic, doctors, nurses, and they are getting the Pfizer vaccine next week, so they should have every opportunity, if they so choose, to seek reimbursement, even though they typically don't, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think
Yeah.
this
So
is
I
not
don't wanna
one
limit
single
it.
lift. It's going to take all of us working together.
Exactly.
So I am in full support in doing whatever we can as partners to help leverage additional vaccines and get it out in an expeditious manner. It's an economic revival, you know, if we can lead the state in this effort. The other piece of all of this is not only there's the provider relief fund, but we also draw down low-income pool dollars.
Right.
That helps offset uninsured care. So there's some additional funding just by having the FQHC as one of your partners that we bring to the community to help offset the charity care. And that's our commitment. And working with Ascension, we've been doing this since March with testing. I think we have continued to evolve this process of how do we schedule testing. It started with drive-by, then we added rapid. We know how setting appointments look like, how we can divide and conquer. And I think this is just a continuation of that partnership and a continued evolution.
Yep. So, Justin, Sonny, I do want to publicly thank you, and I'm friends at West Florida and Baptist are all receptive, and they're all dear friends and supporters. But I know you guys have been on the front line of testing, and I certainly appreciate it. I mean, and I don't think any of it's perfect. I think, none of us have been through this, so every day we're going to have a problem. If we didn't have a problem, we wouldn't be here. So, I could certainly be open to any more ideas, but I certainly, Sandra, are going to be very open to being able to do the uninsured with the mission that you've had. That's why we have a community health, because they closed down university to public hospital. because we can't. I mean, we know what the uninsured care does. I sat on Sacred Heart board for years. I mean, you know, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars when somebody comes into the emergency room and does not have insurance and has a heart attack or gets a gunshot. We're going to service those. I mean, because that's the ministry that we do at Sacred Heart. But if there's ways in which we can help, we're going to help. And I know that, you know, 3 million, 4 million is just a drop in the bucket of the uninsured care that we do at Sacred Heart. So we certainly want to be good partners.
In Lumen and Mr. Chairman, the good news is I think we have a workaround, and I've already conversed with the attorney back and forth. There's a way to restructure the contract. Would you just illuminate
And I'm willing to
that?
listen to Kendrick. Kendrick's a good friend. I didn't see Kendrick.
No, I thought he was here.
Yeah, I don't see any other
I hadn't seen
hospital
Kendrick. I don't see
administrators or personnel
I don't see Jennifer
here.
Grove, nor do I see Mark Faulkner.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Allison, would you just specify what we had just talked about and what you're going to bring tonight?
Right,
It
so
doesn't do anything at all to slow you guys down. Go get them, Tiger. It just specifies that you're not exclusive. The pool of money is the pool of money, and multiple people can draw it down, and it allows the opportunity for all the distribution channels to participate. So was that about it? And that's coming and I'm going to bring that as a replacement backup.
Perfect.
I hope that would solves the issue.
So anything else, Justin? Again, it's, the other thing I want to commend you guys on was that everyone who got a shot yesterday went ahead and had their second appointment scheduled. And so I think, Lumen, I think for the people in Brownsville, they were given the date in the same time as what they had done
Correct.
last Sunday. So,
And then we're going to do a follow-up, man. I Ms. Smiley, Community Health is going to do a follow-up phone call to remind them. But they were given, like, if they were at 8 o'clock, that's what time they were going to be there.
And then I think just one thing is everyone has heard, of course, we are being given the Moderna for the most part, and we've all heard these 28 days, but there is a little bit of a range that people have. So I know the concern yesterday was, it's not 28 days away, it's sooner, but Eric, if you just want to talk about.
So for the Moderna, it's 2 days prior to your 28 and 5 days after your 28 is the range that you're allowed to take your second dosage.
Okay,
Right.
well.
Yeah, that's what I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
before this
you're
target
giving
moves,
medical
so.
advice.
Yeah, so anyway, there is some leeway there, so if you don't hit it exactly,
Yes.
and I know that,
Just making sure.
and Lumen, the Department of Health did give some vaccinations out last week ahead of your, I don't want to say your event, but the event at Brownsville, so
It was not mine.
I think there was a headline.
But it was so successful, I will take credit for it. Man. I mean,
Well, I was there too for at least.
Yeah, you showed,
But the Department of Health was giving some last week, and I know that they're working on getting some of those rescheduled, so.
Robert, let me ask Eric or Maria, how can we get more vaccines? I mean, we as a board, what can we do to help to get more vaccines?
We're going to be sending a letter to the governor, and that'll be on the agenda tonight. One, asking that we have the drive-through site, similar to the testing site that he did. I think his visit yesterday, that the fact that we had 2,000 vaccinations booked in 2 hours, I think he was impressed with that, and so the fact that we're using the supply that's being given to us, and we're administering it quickly. I believe that's our best case to continue to get more.
And we don't really have a real number that we can project.
But to answer your question, I know you guys are going to put a formalized letter together to ask for a state site, like we did for state testing for UWF. That's fine and good. There's some logistical issues. We got to work around that because the 15-minute wait time, UWF's not going to be conducive. So we're going to have to look at that logistically if the state comes in and does that. But
Public safety.
well, something. We'll do something. But
Well, no, you can't. You've got all the cars, then they got to wait for 15 minutes.
we'll figure something out legit. We're,
You know.
But at least you got people there in case they have a reaction.
Well, you're going to have that anyway.
You've got that
so-
anyway, but the problem is you need some space for vehicles to pull over to the side and wait 15 minutes.
So to that point,
we'll get to it.
that if these guys in the hospitals get together with the health department and we start turning and burning, and we don't have a state site, they're more apt to give us more vaccine versus pumping it to that state site, to be honest with you, and we can get that quicker.
And I think,
Honestly, so just let you
and
know
again,
that.
because it's not going to be their people that are administering
That's
it.
correct.
It's, we're not putting a strain on other
They're not
additional
putting a strain on the
resources.
state, they're not funding it, they're not doing any heavy lifting, they're more apt to pump it out here.
So,
Okay,
okay,
we'll make that clear.
okay. All right, Marie, did you have anything else?
The bottom line is, the more we get out, the more we get in. And so, when it was hard to have the conversation with Ms. Gilly and Mr. Gilmore about how I felt about our capacity. And it's not that we don't have capacity in and of itself, it's like my Honda minivan. It's very reliable, and I can put stuff in it and get it from one place to another. But if I have to move my mom's house with 50 years of her stuff from one end of the county to the other, it's going to take a lot of trips.
So what do we need to do
So-
to help you?
so-
What do we need to do to help you?
We had a very, very, very strained conversation because she wasn't completely sure about the delivery. And she was trying to find a way to reach out to us and explain that to us, and it almost escalated into a shouting match, as much as you can see her shouting or me shouting, because we know how important this vaccination delivery is to our community. And so, as I said, that's why we brought this to you all. I am very thankful for the resolution that we have come to, because it is going to serve our citizens better. But I want you to know that this went through a lot of strained and very difficult conversations to get to this point, because our ultimate goal is to make sure that the citizens get the vaccination.
And not only
it was-
that, but on December 23rd was when that executive order, I think, was signed, and you had the vaccine 4 days later. So there was not a lot of time for us to implement a plan other than what we had already put in place, which was then swept out from underneath us. So I guess I'll see everybody at 4:30 then. Thank you.